Afternoon, Mikey.
Thank you, Relebogile. The Constitutional Court declares prenuptials invalid in customary marriages, and details emerge in the Parapara case. Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Malapo. The Constitutional Court has ruled that antenuptial contracts signed after a customary marriage are invalid. This means once a customary marriage exists, couples cannot later change the marriage regime by signing an antenuptial contract unless a court formally approves it. This essentially renders the marriage in community of property. An antenuptial contract is a nuptial contract unless a court formally approves it. This essentially renders the marriage in community of property. An antenuptial contract is usually signed before a marriage is concluded, with both spouses on the same page about how their finances will be handled. Sibongile Ndashe, Executive Director of the Initiative for Strategic Litigation in Africa, explains what it changes for couples already in customary marriages.
What it does is makes it clear that customary marriage has the same status as other marriages that are concluded in the country. That when you change a proprietary regime, so the regime that governs the property in the marriage, you have to get it sanctioned by the High Court. You cannot just sign an agreement between the two of you. So what the Constitutional Court said today is that antenuptial contract will be invalid.
Human Settlements Minister Thembi Smelane says they're moving forward with constructing houses with innovative building technologies because of their durability and ability to withstand disaster. Smelane gave a briefing today announcing the building of IBTS and a summit that will precede the start of the project. The department's plan is to eradicate informal settlements by moving dwellers into new structures. Nkadimeng says while the buildings of the IBTS has similar costs to the houses government has been building, they're more resilient, especially in the wake of inclement weather conditions in the country.
We've also taken a look into how our other African countries, which faces the very same challenges that we face in terms of a disaster. If you look into the previous floods of Mozambique, not the recent ones that we are talking about, where they've built in APTs, there are areas where the schools that were built in APTs are the only ones remaining, and anything has been washed away.
We move to the courts where a data analyst has testified in court that the phones of all three of the accused Parapara burglars were pinged near the farm on the day of the robbery. The analyst, who cannot be named due to a standing order to not identify witnesses, has been testifying at the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo, where the trial is taking place. Emanuela David, along with siblings Ndili Nasha and Froliana Joseph, are charged with breaking and entering into President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm and making off with $580,000 in cash. Tabiso Goba reports.
State witness testimony in the trial has so far only implicated accused number one, Emanuela David. However, a data analyst today showed how the other two accused played a role in the alleged robbery. The analyst says on the day of the robbery and the days leading up to it, there were a lot of calls between David, Ndili Nasha and Froliana Joseph. Froliana was a temporary cleaner at the Parapara farm. The analyst testified that on the day of the robbery, the three accused, along with three other suspects, were in the same place.
The handsets with cell phone numbers associated with all these individuals activated cell phone towers in the vicinity of Palapala farm around the same times.
The analyst will be cross-examined by the defense lawyers on Friday. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
Former Independent Police Investigative Directorate Head Robert McBride has denied having any close links to forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan and says he only met him when he was appointed as the head of the police watchdog in 2014. But McBride acknowledges that O'Sullivan had expert knowledge in identifying fraud as well as forensic analysis and used him as a sounding board for information. McBride has been accused of working with O'Sullivan to target certain senior police officials and interfering in police operations. McBride is continuing his evidence before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee investigating police corruption today.
I've known him since 2014 when I was appointed to IPID, and I met him in response to his provocation about what IPID's predecessor had done to him.
He admits that O'Sullivan tried to overstep the mark by inserting himself in policing matters.
On two occasions, I thought he was overstepping the line, and I brought him to order. I don't know his relationships with SAPS.
The City of Cape Town's Disaster Risk Management Centre has begun registering residents affected by the devastating fire in Masiphumelele. Hundreds of people have been left homeless after the blaze tore through the area yesterday, destroying about 160 informal structures. Officials say registration will help assess needs and provide emergency relief, including temporary shelter and food assistance. Here's the city's Disaster Management Centre's Charlotte Powell.
We've also activated Solid Waste Department to clear the fire site so that rebuilding efforts can get underway. Other relevant city services have been called in to check for damage to water, sanitation and electricity infrastructure. Gift of the Givers and Living Hope, NGO on scene to respond to the immediate humanitarian relief needs on site.
And Japan has restarted a reactor at the world's largest nuclear plant nearly 15 years after a disaster at the Fukushima power plant forced the country to shut all its nuclear reactors. Triggered by the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in the country, the meltdown in the reactors led to a radioactive leakage which traumatized communities. Critics say the plant's owner, Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, was not prepared, and response from them and government was not well coordinated when the incident occurred in 2011. The seventh reactor is not expected to come back on until 2030, and the remaining 5 could be decommissioned. Gold's trading at $4,860.20 an ounce. The rand's at 16.32 to the dollar, at 21.92 to the pound, at 19.16 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.05 a barrel.
Traffic lights still not working in Douglasdale at Leslie and Douglas Drive, as well as in Edenvale. Faulty traffic lights at Morafontein Road and Van Riebeek.
In your sport, Cedric Kaze tells his Kaizer Chiefs players they need to score more goals. Pep Guardiola says something needs to change soon for his fragile Manchester City. And Emma Raducanu exits the Australian Open.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng this afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs of 25 and 26 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: the Constitutional Court has ruled that antenuptial contracts signed after a customary marriage are invalid.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
.702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 9 minutes past 3 on Wednesday, the 21st of January. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. Somebody out there is richer by 177 million rand. That person, winner of the lotto last night, has not yet come forward. We'll talk to Michelle van Trotzenberg from Ituba at 10 to 4. Not just about the hunt for the winning ticket holder, but the systems that need to be in place to help someone deal with a profoundly life-changing event. Yes, it's obviously a wonderful thing. It can also, by all accounts, be quite harrowing as well. Let me tell you, if I win the lotto, and I would need to buy a ticket first, I suppose, nobody is going to find out, at least not for a couple of weeks. In other stories, staying with money as the wealthiest people in the world gather at Davos, some other wealthy people are putting those wealthy people in the spotlight. A group called Patriotic Millionaires, set up in the United States, is campaigning for higher levels of tax for the world's super rich. More on that after 4. Speaking of Davos, US President Donald Trump will be addressing the gathering shortly. Whatever he says is going to have consequences. Invariably it does. We'll talk about that after 5. And we'll update you on the big news stories of the day. 2 come to mind as I look up at the TV screens. Robert McBride continues to engage with Parliament's ad hoc committee on police corruption and related matters. Babalo Ndenze with us later. And then down in Durban, stormy protests outside a school in Addington with the group called March and March. saying that places should be reserved for South African children and not given to the children of illegal immigrants. Police have got involved there. When I looked at the screen a little while ago, water cannons being used, tear gas fired. There's a lot going on, and Nhlanhla Mabaso is there and will be with us soon. On the markets, the oil price has a bit of an ish factor about it. It's had that for quite a while now. Brent crude is up by $1.20 and currently trading at $65.07. We all know how that affects our pocket. Fortunately, our currency is having a good day on top of some other good days. Rand currently trading at 16 Rand 33 against the dollar. That's a 12-cent gain over the last 24 hours. Keep going, please. A euro will set you back 19 Rand 15. That's also a gain, 16 cents. On this time yesterday, 21 Rand 91 will get you a pound. The Rand stronger against sterling by 21 cents. So overall, as I say, good day for the currency. The oil share up by 260 points, driven in part by a 2.2% rise in the resources index. That's reflected in Anglo being up by 5.1%, Glencore and ARM by 3.3%. The finance company Quilter, though, also having a good day, up by 3.7%. Not so good for Netcare, down 4.3%. Naspers has given up 2.3% today. Stephen Curtis joining us with all the market news at 4:25. Not just the numbers, but Stephen's insights and all the company news as well. We'll have sport with Tolakele Mganga, the first of the playoff games in the SA20 tonight. That's something to look forward to. Maki Molapo has the latest news headlines. We've got Karabo Chali keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live, and if it's happening in 702 land, you'll hear it here first. With your help, of course, contact us on 072 702 1702 or give us a ring on 011 883 0702. That is, by the way, either to comment on the stories we've got or to fill us in on the stories we don't yet know or we don't know all the details of. So we rely on you. We are delighted when you can add to what we know and what we don't. 702 Drive, 3:13.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So this story on News 24 caught my eye. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try and make it as simple as possible. Packaging company Impact, MPACT, they actually do their own toilet rolls. I don't know if they make them for wider sale, but there is an identifiable Impact toilet roll. Now, you'll wonder why I'm telling you this. Well, let me make this clear. An employee back in 2022 was dismissed for allegedly stealing one of these rolls. Now, it's gone to the Cape Town Labour Court, and the employee has won 120,000 Rand in back pay and has been reinstated for being unfairly dismissed. One of the things that came up in the case was it seems to me that the judge, and I haven't read the details of the case in minute detail, but the judge said, look, the way the company handled this, they were the authors of their own misfortune, because a security guard went through the possessions of the bag of the employee, and Mr. April, I'll find his first name in a moment, and they found the roll and then they just put it back in the bag, which made him feel that he had reason to go away with this roll. Anyway, that I think is the details. But what's interesting for me is the kind of thoughts that this triggered for me. If somebody is involved in petty theft, because I think the stealing of a toilet roll we can class it as petty theft. And I'm talking about scale, not significance, because that's what we're going to discuss in a moment. How many chances should they get a second chance? So that could extend to the person who maybe takes some bread rolls from the restaurant where they work, or maybe steals a can of Coke from the bar or a beer on their way out, having done the night shift and packing up late. Or do you take the view that this thing needs to be a clear line, a solid line, and you don't cross it? You absolutely do not ever steal or pilfer or anything from the place where you work. So that's the question on my mind. It's a situation I've probably had to deal with a couple of times. I'll share my thoughts a little bit later. But first, Kapazela, Jonathan Fairbairn, where are you on this? Like, no, you just don't do it. If you do it, you're gone.
Yeah, afternoon, John, and afternoon to the 702 family. So I'm inclined to go with my initial thought to say no theft is acceptable, whether it's petty theft or theft of a greater kind, and that dismissal should be there. But then, you also got to look at what the company employment contract says. So if it says there that anybody found guilty of theft of any kind is immediate dismissal, and then you give that employee a second chance, what would that say, or what precedent would that set to other employees in the business?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm trying to look at is well, okay, well, if I wanted to try and be fair, or a fair boss, if I gave the person a chance to come clean, now,
yes.
The circumstances of how I found out about the theft, let's leave that aside because there's too much detail there. But let's just say I found out and I gave the person who stole a chance to come clean and say,
yes,
it was me. I own up to it. I did it. Then maybe I would be inclined to give a second chance. But if they didn't come clean and didn't say it was me, or tried to deny it, and then maybe through lie detector tests, they obviously will find out lying.
Yeah.
They're gone automatically. No chances.
Okay, so you're looking for a second round of honesty after there's been dishonesty to trigger the interaction in the first place. Karabo Charlie, what do you think? I mean, do you think people should get a chance? Because theft, you could argue, points to a dishonesty that's going to come back and bite all of you down the line. At the same time, the consequences of dismissal are substantial.
Yeah, no, but consequences should be there. I guess maybe there should be a system of saying there will be like warnings. So there will be a first warning, verbal warning, written warning, final warning. Then because you've given this person enough chance, and for a toilet paper, I mean, I would show some compassion and say, okay, I understand maybe the economy is rough and, you had a runny tummy and you couldn't help it. So I think that was just a bit too harsh. I mean, to fire somebody for such a petty crime, I think it's, you have no empathy for them at all. So maybe just giving people second chances, and if it's one too many, then I guess you've given them the chance and they see their pattern, and then when you fire them, it's reasonable.
Just technically, you can't have more than one second chance because the next one is the third chance. So when it comes to the point of a hearing, you got to start numbering.
Fair enough. Yes, 100%.
the second chances. So give us a thought. I mean, I would very much like to know, especially from people who've been either managers of small businesses, big businesses, maybe if you've managed a section. How have you dealt with this? Because one of the things you may take into account was people say, well, I saw Perlman get away with it. Maybe I'll give that a little bit of a whirl, They don't seem to be keeping tabs on how much of this or that we have. And then before you know it, you've got something that is spread and with wider pilfering, wider theft, and wider consequences. It's an interesting one. And I'd like to get your views. 072-702-1702 and 011-883-0702. It's 19 minutes past 3. Let's get out onto the roads. Let's make sure that when you get out onto the roads, you know exactly what's going on. Karabo.
Well, at this stage, things looking pretty good. Nothing really hectic to report on. Everything is free-flowing, no accidents at this stage. However, there's faulty traffic lights which are likely to cause delays as the afternoon progresses, and that's approaching the intersection of Winnie Mandela Drive and Grosvenor in Bryanston, Kyalami at the R55 and Kyalami Boulevard. Those traffic lights are also not working, as well as in Midrand at Olifantsfontein Road in the N1. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
What would be a practical way of implementing it? And now, as a driver in South Africa, you are not allowed to take a single drop of alcohol if you're intending to drive. How do we implement it in a way that's going to be effective?
Zero alcohol can definitely work, but as saying, it has to be implemented well. And that would mean consistent roadside testing, for instance. It would mean visible enforcement, having those checkpoints. And it also would mean that we need to have sustained public messaging messaging. And there has to be some kind of consequence.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Switching to Outsurance Business Insurance was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
Outsurance Business Insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For boutique hotels, catering companies, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Hollywood Bets invites you to take the lead. The sizzling summer competition is giving you a chance to bask in horse racing glory and blaze into red-hot rewards. Bet 50 Rand or more on horse racing online or at your nearest branch and you could win a share of 1 million Rand in prizes. Enjoy a star-studded lineup of equestrian events this summer and settle up for a season of success. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Hey, no longer feeling like the man you used to be? The man who's the life of the party even when he doesn't attend.
The fact is, 95% of men with low testosterone go untreated.
Vitalamin high-performance supplements for men helps recharge energy, regain lean muscle, and reload performance. Available at all good pharmacies and vitalamin.co.za.
Vitalamin. Don't get older. Get better.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Hi, John. Louis from Pretoria. I work for a bank. Will it be acceptable if someone steals money from your account? Will you give the bank a second chance? Steal is steal, my friend. We need to have zero tolerance. This is where we are in this country because people get away with all sorts of crimes.
Zero tolerance for stealing, no matter how small. Give us a call on that. If you missed the question, I just asked the question. If there's kind of petty theft, and of course we can have an argument about what petty theft is, do you give people another chance, a second chance? Is there any argument for that? Or is it all or nothing? Absolutely so. Mona Claire says, we as employers are being pushed. Where did your message go? Here we go. We as employers are being pushed and harshly scrutinized for inconsistent application of the rules, and we also have a duty to apply fairness. What would fairness be, though, Mona Claire? Maybe just drop me another note, or maybe if you're feeling a bit constrained by typing away, put your voice to it. Maybe spell out for us a little bit more what you mean by that and how it applies in this instance. 24 minutes past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's go down to KZN. I don't know if any of you have been watching the news, but on a couple of channels, there have been really quite troubling scenes outside a school in the Addington area of Durban. The school is Addington Primary. There are parents who are saying that they are unable to get their children into the school because they argue the school prefers admitting the children of foreigners. And they're saying that the school population, 80% of the school population is children of foreign nationals. I'm not sure whether they're distinguishing between people who are here legally and people who are not. But it really reached quite a pitch earlier. I'm not sure what the situation is right now, but when I was following it, there was tear gas used. Police were using water cannons. So clearly it had reached something of a peak. Let's get the latest on this then with Nhlanhla Mabaso. Nhlanhla, very good afternoon to you. He's down outside the Addington Primary and has been there for much of the day. Nhlanhla, what's the situation now? Still people there, still tense?
Good afternoon, John. Well, they still are picketing outside the school, but the situation has quietened down compared to what it was earlier on. Although the protest started very peacefully, things turned sour when it reached after school time when parents on scholar transport had to collect or fetch their children. That's when the protesters then intensified, which led to the public order policing units then deploying stun grenades and moving them away from the school premises, wanting to make way for the parents to be able to access the school gates, as the demonstrators were also adamant that they're not going to allow anyone to access the area. But I can confirm that indeed some parents have been able to pick up their children. The police have been able also to maintain the situation from what it was when the situation got worse, John.
Give us a sense in Nhlanhla of who's in the protester group. There are obviously organizations like March to March. I think I saw the MK party there, and there may be other political parties. What proportion of those demonstrating are parents who have tried to get their children into this particular school? And what proportion are people who are campaigning around this issue without necessarily having a direct stake in this specific school, by way of being either parents or guardians?
Last week we saw a number of parents outside protesting alongside the civic organization and the political party that you've mentioned, joined also by the Operation Tutula. At the time, they were raising concern about the fact that it was the first day of the school 2026 academic calendar, but their children were not registered. Yes, there were claims, like you've mentioned, that the school has a larger number of children that are foreign nationals, but the Department of Education in the province has been able to confirm that they have, I think, just over 1,400 pupils there at the school, and then that over, a larger number of that is South Africans, and they did say that over 600 of those are indeed of foreign nationals, but only 10 of those foreign nationals don't have proper documentation. That's according to also the ANC Education Committee's Bongiseni Dlomo, who was today outside the school. He said from last week's picket, they had a list of 66 children that were not placed. He says that they were able to assist them at that school, but other neighboring schools as well. Although parents were setting their sights on Eddington Primary School, they've also had to place them through, to neighboring primary schools, and that's because of the help and intervention from the Department of Education. Spokesperson Muzi Mahlambi was also on the picket scene today, also confirmed this, that indeed they were able to place. But this morning we saw, I think, about 10 others that came looking for space. We know that they were locked in a meeting inside the school. The Department of Education strongly condemned bringing the pupils physically there, citing the fact that there was a protest, citing that there was also a lot of media attention to the story, which then would have been play out well for the image of the children. But the department really escalated the matter, sending some of their officials to the school. They've vowed that they will be able to meet the parents halfway. The MECC Potlo Muga is out of the province attending the education in Lekgotla, and that's why they were not able to. He was not able to be there physically. But according to March and March leader Jacinta Ngobese Zuma, the MK party, and the Operation Tutula, they say that until their demands are met, they will not stop picketing, they will not stop demonstrating outside that school, John.
So let's be clear on their demands then, just to wrap in Nhlanhla, and I'm sure you'll keep us updated on the story in the coming days. Is their demand that there should be no foreign, no children of foreigners admitted? Are they saying there should be no children of foreigners admitted if their parents cannot demonstrate that they're in South Africa legally? What exactly is the demand? Because obviously if the school and the authorities are to meet it, one would have thought it needs to be as clear as possible.
As I know, all three organizations, when it comes to foreign nationals, they don't hide how they feel about them, John. But I think in this instance, it's a matter of anyone who's in the country must have proper documentation. But in previous protests that we've seen, they were very vocal about how much they want anyone with foreign national to leave. But in this instance of the school, they're saying that South African first. That's what they're saying. They're saying that no child of a South African parent should be sitting at home while some who are foreign nationals being prioritized. So they're saying South African first. and that South Africans need to be prioritized more than any other nation. That's what they were saying during that particular protest.
Nhlanhla Mabaso, thank you. Outside the Addington Primary School in Durban. Your thoughts, 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. 29 minutes to 4. We need to catch up with the news. Maki Molapo has the latest. Good afternoon to you.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. We begin with news just in. 5 men have been shot and killed outside a tuck shop in Jeffsville near Pretoria. Gauteng police are attending to the crime scene at the informal settlement located near Attridgeville. Details surrounding the incident remain sketchy at this stage, and we'll bring you more on this developing story in our upcoming bulletins. The National Union of Mine Workers has attributed the deaths of 12 learners in a scholar transport crash this week to poor oversight by government. NUMSA says the sector is not properly regulated and there is a lack of law enforcement. On Monday, 12 children died when the taxi they were travelling in to school collided with a truck in Vanderbijl Park. NUMSA has also highlighted the country's woeful road fatality statistics. According to the Transport Department, there were more than 11,000 fatalities on South African roads between January and December last year. NUMSA national spokesperson Pakamile Hlubi-Majola.
13 children have lost their lives as a result of carelessness, and that cannot be something we just ignore. Strong action must be taken, not just against the driver, but the state must intervene to ensure that scholar transportation is highly regulated and that stringent requirements are put in place to limit the number of accidents that may occur.
Hlubi-Majola says government needs to prioritize road safety.
The deaths of these children cannot be in vain. We are tired of empty rhetoric on road safety. We demand action. NUMSA wants to see consistent, visible policing on the roads, and strong penalties must be enforced for those who do not obey the rule of law.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has highlighted the need to strengthen early childhood development programs to promote literacy among children from a young age. Speaking at the Basic Education Lekgotla held at the Burchard Hotel in Boksburg today, Ramaphosa focused on the critical role of early learner development. The department has been working to expand childhood development centers nationwide, but continues to face challenges related to funding and infrastructure capacity. Ramaphosa says improving early childhood development is expected to contribute to higher matric pass rates in the future.
By investing in early childhood education, our country can foster greater communities, support equitable access to education, and promote lifelong success for all children.
The Cultural, Religious and Linguistics Rights Commission has rejected claims by former Section 22 Committee Chairperson Reverend Professor Musa Xulu that it seeks to control the Christian faith. Xulu resigned from the committee last week, accusing the commission of pushing a state-driven agenda to regulate religion, claims he repeated during a media briefing. The commission, tasked with overseeing cultural, religious and linguistic matters, says the Section 22 process was designed to enable voluntary self-regulation, not legislation or state control. Briefing the media in Braamfontein today, CRL Commission Chairperson Tokum Khwanazi disputed Xulu's version of events.
The committee has not set after the resignation of Professor Xulu. There was a resolution in one of the meetings of the Section 22 committee that they would like to nominate a name after their own process.
The Commission maintains that the framework is meant to promote transparency, accountability and a self-regulated religious sector without state interference. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Europe is fully prepared to act, if necessary, over the US's Greenland tariffs threat. World and business leaders are gathering in Switzerland for the annual meeting under the theme of a spirit dialogue to shape the global economy. President Donald Trump is threatening to add a 10% tariff to any and all goods imported from the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands and Finland from February 1st if they oppose his proposed takeover of Greenland. The US president said the tariffs would rise to 25% by the 1st of June. Yesterday, French President Emmanuel Macron said the EU could consider a series of retaliatory options, including a trade bazooka. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng this afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs of 25 and 26 degrees.
Traffic sluggish in Sandton on Grainston Drive up between Rivonia Road and Catherine. There's also slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Winnie Mandela Drive and Grosvenor in the Bryanston area due to faulty traffic lights.
The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. 5 men have been shot and killed outside a tuck shop in Jeffsville near Pretoria.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Having seen the footage of the carnage after the accident, we do need to have a conversation about how we as media people behave under such circumstances. The levels of sensitivity that we exhibit in an innocent desire to tell the story. When a mother who has just witnessed 2 of her babies crushed and bludgeoned to death is on the floor overwhelmed by the reality of what she's just experienced, the question, how do you feel, is deeply insensitive.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Getting ready for university? Let South African Airways take the pressure out of your travel. Enjoy all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 check bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 Feb. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
And the award for the spiciest stunt performed in a bowl goes to Tom Yum Cruise.
Thank you everyone. Wow, what an honor. I'd like to thank the chilies, the lemongrass, and of course, Simply Asia, for believing in my flavor.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia, connecting the Thaiway.
Naked people never skip leg day. Because naked people spend less time on insurance admin, they've got more time for lunges and Romanian deadlifts. With Naked, you can cover your car, home, and stuff in seconds. And it's all online, so that means no long phone calls. Go to naked.insure now, get a car insurance quote in 90 seconds, and start working out, like naked people. Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP. Get naked.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, 702. If I have to, let's say, dismiss people for stealing toilet paper and probably say it's a petty theft, then I will chase away each and everyone who's working in those companies who's refilling those toilet paper machines. Those companies, the cleaners. Guys, show me one cleaner who's buying a toilet paper at his or her house. Just one. Show me one. Then I will say, yeah, at least. But besides that, there is nobody who steals toilet paper more than the people who are working with these things. They are not buying it in their own houses.
Good afternoon, John. Theft is theft. One, the lady or the person that stole stock. That is, whether you see it as petty, it is theft. When you steal a toilet paper in a factory that manufactures toilet paper, it's the same as an employee that works in the bank and steal. In banks, you are fired for stealing 5 cents, so it's a principle. It's about the principle of it. You should not at all do it. Thank you.
Yeah, and Amir is helping us with procedure and shares this with us in answer to the question, what is the right response when you get theft on a small scale? I don't like the word petty because it sounds, if someone says you're being petty, they're saying this is unimportant, whereas I don't think any theft is unimportant, and I'm not suggesting that. If there's a better word, please help me with that. But here's Amir, who says, the minute it's suspected, suspension without pay should be obvious. Then once it's proven, you must be fired. Must in block capitals, and charges laid against your thieving criminal self. If you are suspended and there's no evidence to fire you, you should be reinstated and get paid whatever was put on hold. And then whoever that came forward with those allegations should also be suspended without pay for the same period. So Amir, having clearly thought through more than one implication and intricacy here. Just looking up at TV screens, I see that US President Donald Trump is busy addressing the World Economic Forum. We'll look in some detail after 5 at what he said and the implications both for his country and for Europe, but crucially for South Africa and the rest of the developing world. That's coming up later. 20 to 4.
EWN Sport.
Chiefs in action against Golden Arrows in the Premier League last night. Lots of talking points. Champions League football on as well. There's tennis and cricket too. Here's Tolakele.
Thanks so much, John. And Cedric Kaze has called on his Kaizer Chiefs players to be more clinical in front of goal. This follows their slender win over Golden Arrows in the Betway Premiership last night. Eden McCarthy scored the winner as Amakosi moved up to third spot. That's 2 points behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. But more worryingly, they haven't managed to score more than 1 goal in their last 4 league games.
I didn't say that is a concern as long as I have 3 points, but it's true that we need to make more out of the opportunities that we get and the situations, the interesting situations that we got. But I believe as well it's something that's gonna come with time, with confidence. But as well, it's true that we need a killer instinct.
Pep Guardiola believes that nothing is going in Manchester City's way after they suffered a surprise 3-1 loss to Bodo Glimt in the UEFA Champions League last night. The result means that their record since the start of the year stands at 2 wins from their 7 games, and those victories only came in the FA and Carabao Cup.
Of course, we lost. Everything started to be since the new year against many things, and I know how good the team they are. I don't underestimate them no much I know, but the semi-final last season Europa League, and they were fresh in mind, and we arrived in some departments, without important players, and they are a little bit fragile as they were last season in certain period.
Carlos Alcaraz, Coco Gauff and Irina Sabalenka have secured victories that have seen them progress to the 3rd round of the Australian Open. Emma Raducanu's day ended in disappointment after she was beaten by Anastasia Potapova 7-6 and 6-2.
Yeah, I thought it was a very difficult match with the conditions. In the first set, I thought it was tricky trying to get used to how lively it felt out there, and also the wind was pretty strong from one side, so just not something that I felt too comfortable with. I didn't feel like I dealt with it particularly well. Yeah, nevertheless, just one of those days you don't feel too good on the court, but credit to her.
And the ICC have rejected Bangladesh's request to shift their T20 World Cup matches out of India, a move which cast doubt over the team's participation at next month's tournament. The ICC say in the absence of any independent security findings that materially compromise the safety of the team, they are unable to relocate their fixtures. Bangladesh's cricket board has repeatedly refused to play its games in India and insists they won't be pressured into changing their stance. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, it's 17 minutes to 4. Traffic building. Karabo Charlie is watching. Santon already busy.
Yeah, leaving the Santon area, traffic already sluggish on Greyston Drive. This is between Rivonia Road and Catherine in Dierteboort, Pretoria. Also slow-moving traffic on Sifako Mahatu Drive, approaching Moloto Road. Otherwise, generally things are pretty quiet at this hour. No serious accidents have been reported on our highways. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights in Bryanston at Winnie Mandela Drive and Grosvenor. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
7:02 drive, 16 minutes to 4. So, Tolakele, you're running a small business of some kind. There are movable goods. Maybe it's in the nature of the things that you sell, or maybe it's stuff that you use, because in any workplace there's stuff like toilet paper, soap, or whatever it is, consumables. If somebody steals something from the shop, and I'm not talking about massive, large-scale fraud that puts the risk, the economic health of the company at risk, but rather does something to kind of affect the mood and maybe challenge the culture in the place. What's your response? Would yours be to say, you know what, I know, John, it's only a can of Coke, but actually I don't want this in the place where I work. Bye.
As you were asking the question, I was like, it's not a big deal. But then I'm also thinking that it sets a dangerous precedence, because if I let John get away with stealing a can of Coke, next time Garabo's just going to take like 1,000 Rand out of the register. So it's a situation where, honestly, the guy who was like, they must go, I get it. I think you really do have to be that strict, because if you let one small thing go, you're going to have to let the big thing go as well. And then your company is just going to be in a situation where you're never making any profits. Draw the line. The guy who used the example about the toilet paper, even with that, you have to draw the line and say, guys, no one can take, because ultimately we are trying to run a business where everybody gets paid at the end of the month. But if we're running low on stock, I'm going to have to take drastic measures to make sure that we all stay employed.
Do you think, Karabo Charlie, because I know you've had one round at this, but I want your view, and Tolakele, come back on it if you like as well. Is there also a thing somewhere about respect, that you feel disrespected when people do that? Because, you're trying to create a climate, you've perhaps given someone a job, you've said, hey, I'm going to give you a chance, or whatever it might be, but also that you may be disrespecting your colleagues, that you don't regard this as a very serious place and a serious place of work. I mean, that idea has just popped into my head, but I thought I'd share it with you.
Like, as a manager, I'll try to understand the circumstance of the person who stole that thing. I mean, stealing a toilet paper, like it says, it could be an essential product. Maybe they really, really needed it, and then they have a proper explanation of why they stole it. But if the explanation is reckless and the excuse is not good enough, then I'll be harsh. But if there's a reasonable explanation, then I'll be like, show some compassion.
I hate to advocate for the devil, but the part where Karabo says, if it's an essential need, then isn't it a reflection of you as a manager that you're not paying your employees enough, that they can't even support, they can't even afford like simple things like toilet paper, where they'd rather have to take from the office than actually be able to put it in their budget. So it is such a difficult situation, because then you have to point the mirror at yourself, where you've created a culture where the employees are like, I'm not going to buy coffee on my own. I just get from the office because they have so many other things, but also I just can't afford it unless I'm at the office.
I mean, you get into choppy water there, because then you say to me, well, I'm in a tough time. Then I say, nice shoes. When did you get those? Think about that next time. Anyway, I like these kind of debates, because on the face of them, they're quite simple. As soon as you start delving into different levels, it becomes more complicated. Not for Helen, though, who believes it is very, very clear, the line. And this is Helen's view. Are you considered a thief when you take 10 Rand or when it's 100 Rand? She answers her own question, and with the word both, and adds an exclamation mark. In case we missed the point, Helen concludes, a thief is a thief, no matter the extent of the crime. Keep those coming, 12 minutes to 4.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, this is a pretty extraordinary story. Someone won 177 million Rand from last night's lotto draw, but they haven't come forward to say, hey, look, I'm the winner. Of course, you don't just say, I'm the winner. You need to provide proof. But so far, the winner has not come forward, unless, of course, they have in the time between when we set up the interview with my next guest and now. Michelle van Trotzenberg is at Ituba, Head of Marketing and Corporate Affairs. Ms. van Trotzenberg, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. Let's leave aside quantum just for the moment, because this is one of your biggest payouts. But has this happened before? A big winner, no sign of them?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, John. Yes, so the winner was obviously created last night. The Powerball jackpot was one of 178 million. So in
178,
terms of the
okay.
process, yes, 178 million. So it's the second largest jackpot ever seen in South Africa. So in terms of the process, what will happen is the person will be notified. The winner was created on the FNB banking app, so they would have received a call this morning. And sometimes it is possible they don't have time to come through to the office, although I would probably make time. But it does take time for them to come through. They've got to bring through some documentation just to verify who they are. And then we start the winner process.
I have to say, I nearly started laughing when you said, "Sorry, listen, I don't have time. Please stop bothering me for 170." But let's get back to the serious issues. I mean, are some people scared? Do they feel that, okay, before I go and engage in the process, I want to put certain safety things in place? For example, if you were to say at work, listen, I can't come in, or maybe there's a certain family member or acquaintances, maybe you're in shared living spaces, and you're still figuring out, okay, my life will never be the same again, but I want it to not be the same in the best ways and not the worst. I mean, does fear come into it?
Absolutely, John. I mean, a lot of people don't even check their tickets to see if they won. And we've had winners in the past that have almost lost out on their jackpot purely because they don't take the call from the bank. We had a couple of winners last year that almost lost their jackpot completely because there's only 365 days to actually come through to the offices and claim their winnings. They did not take the call, and eventually we managed to get them to accept that it's not a scam. The call is real. Once the banking app identifies who the winner is, they can call them. So if they don't take the call, it can be days and up to weeks and even months, as I said, where they don't come through. And fear does come into the process because you can't believe, is it really me? I've been playing maybe the games for so many years, and I've won maybe a smaller win, but it is a shock to the system, I suppose, if you realize, well, the numbers that I've actually selected this time are the winning numbers.
Let's move it forward. So the person eventually comes through, and obviously I'm asking you not to reflect on what might happen, but to draw on the past experience you've had at Ituba, Michelle. I mean, there must be so much that needs discussing. I mean, on one level, like where do you put the money, what are you going to do with the money, etc., is not necessarily straightforward, but it doesn't have necessarily the levels of emotional complexity as to who am I going to tell, how do I avoid the arrival of relatives and friends who've never given me the time of day, etc., etc. In other words, the emotional shifts I would have thought are more complex. I mean, do you have counselors available? Do you have psychologists? And what are the key questions they ask a winner as they walk them through the process?
Yeah, those are all great questions, John. So, I mean, you're absolutely spot on. So it is such a huge trauma to the system. And, that's why part of our winner services process is we do offer financial counseling. So if you have any of those doubts and questions, they will give you all the tools and the skills in order to be able to invest or to manage that kind of windfall. And also trauma, as you mentioned, we do have counselors that do come in and they walk them through them because most people in South Africa can't fathom that amount of money. I mean, $178 million is a huge amount of money. I wouldn't even understand what to do with it first. So there is definitely processes in place to support all of our winners. Actually, winners that win even over 50,000 Rand, we also offer that kind of service to them because it's an amount of money that you might not have all in one go. So we want to make sure that they have the tools and the skills to be able to manage that kind of money going forward and actually be able to invest and make sure that money works for them as best possible.
I know that, and understandably so, Ituba obviously would want to accentuate the positive elements of life-changing moments like this. But equally, I'm sure that given how long you've been doing this, you would have reviewed, I would think, the journey that winners have gone on before. What have you guys learned? Because I assume most endings are happy, but I would bet on the law of averages, but just likelihood that some things haven't gone that well, that the stress abundance of this kind is placed on relationships has actually led to some difficulties. I mean, what are the key learnings over Ituba's many years stewarding the lotto?
Yeah. So, we have been running the lotto for the last 10 years, to your point. And we do have learnings, and one of the learnings is the need for that financial and trauma counselling. So that was instituted from day one, since we were part of our tenure. So we've been making sure that people have that kind of support. And we've had some really, really good success stories. We've had no comebacks where we've had any winners that have potentially had any bad experiences. And because they've now been given those tools to be able to manage their portfolios or manage that kind of money going forward. And honestly, we haven't had really any bad comebacks. In part of our process is to protect the identity of the winners. So we do a little bit of a callback to them, but most of the time when we try and call them back, they've either changed their number or changed their address. So it's very, very difficult to keep in touch with them. They are welcome to contact us at any time. We've got a dedicated winner services team that are at their disposal. But we haven't had anybody that's physically come back, with any further support or anything that they didn't need.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to imagine the situation, and as I said a little bit earlier, if I were to be in this position, I'd probably have to buy a ticket first. I think that is the minimum point of entry. But on a serious note, so something fundamentally changes in your life. And with a win of this kind, or even a fraction of it, I mean, I would have thought, as you rightly said, this kicks in probably for some people at the level of tens of thousands. But something fundamental changes, and you want to change your circumstances. Maybe you want to get another house. Maybe you want to get some vehicles. You've got a small business. You want to make it bigger, etc., etc. Send kids for education overseas. Stuff that is going to be very evident to a lot of people, including some people who you'd prefer don't know about this. I mean, I would have thought that's a question. People say, well, listen, I want to move out, but I don't want to tell all my neighbors, and I definitely don't want to tell Uncle George, or whoever it is that you fear the most if it's their knock at the door. I mean, what's your advice on that? Go slowly, don't do too much?
Yeah, absolutely go slowly. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet a couple of winners, and when you ask exactly all of those kind of questions, they haven't even had time to process, what do I do now? Where do I go now? Do I move out? And I can actually recall back a winner that won the biggest jackpot in South Africa, the 232 million in 2019. And all he wanted was to buy a Fortuner. He did not want to change homes. He didn't want to mess up the home environment for his children. He obviously wanted to invest money into his education for the family, but he didn't want to make any drastic moves. And I think that's one of the cautious things. It's innate in South Africans. We're very cautious. We're very suspect of everything. We take things really, really slow. And I think through the financial and trauma counselling, those are kind of the tools that we do provide to make sure that they don't make any drastic changes. You don't go and gift, everybody. We do have a lot of people that have said they want to donate to charity. We always ask their stories, what do you want to do? And most of the time, they haven't really even given it much thought because they're waiting for that money to hit their accounts. The winnings are completely, John, tax-free. So if you've won 178 tomorrow, after they process the winnings, which is up to 48 hours, that 178 million, all in all, is in your bank account with lots of zeros. So it will take them a bit of time to process. And I mean, there's a lot of help videos at the moment where you can, what do you do if you win the lotto? But again, as I said, we've got those kind of facilities and counsellors to be able to support them as much as possible.
Thank you so much. It's a fascinating scenario, and we'll obviously look out for the news that I'm sure will eventually come through, that the person who's won it is stepping up to claim their winnings and bringing, how many Woolworths bags would you None. It's not going to go in a Woolworths bag, even if some large amounts at times do. 702 Drive, that was Michelle van Trotzenberg. She's head of marketing and corporate affairs at Ituba. 2 minutes to 4.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
You talk about Macron saying that world order is perhaps over. The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, says actually it was a fig leaf. These rules were only ever meant to apply to some. What case can we make in a world that is no longer about good intentions?
Positioning ourselves is a big part of the strategic orientation. If you listen to many of these powerful nations now, articulating positions positions in a manner that doesn't harm their own interest.
Without much levity, Minister, but is there some relief that for once the attention isn't on us?
No, you're right.
Electricity and Energy Minister speaking to us from Davos.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Andile here with more than just a horse betting ad. Bet on the horses at 10bet and ride with a 20% free bet boost on your deposit. It's more than just a race. It's a 10bet experience. Join now at 10bet.co.za. 10bet is a licensed betting operator and supports responsible gambling. No person under the age of 18 shall be permitted to bet. Betting can be addictive. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line is 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
A man driven to the edge. I don't know where you are. I don't know who you're with. When his beloved takeaway was taken away. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will eat you.
It's the Summer of Stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia. Connecting the Highway.
Team, summer is game time in Mzansi. Every tap, scan, swipe, it all adds up. And FNB is giving us big rewards, partner deals, e-bucks, defense tips, and chances to score experiences money can't buy. But you're only in the game if you pay with FNB. So stay sharp, spend clever, and let's dominate. Get in the game with FNB. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. NCRCP 20. T's and C's, earn rules and limits apply.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. This is EWN.
Deadly shooting at an informal settlement near Pretoria claims 5 lives, and NERSA takes accountability over electricity tariff calculation error. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin with this active scene near the capital. 5 men have been shot and killed outside a tuck shop in Jeffsville this afternoon. Gauteng police are currently at the scene at the informal settlement located near Attridgeville. Details surrounding the incident remain sketchy at this stage. Orange Singh is tracking developments.
Police have rushed to a multiple murder scene on Segumorogo Street in Jeffsville, informal settlement near Pretoria. Information around the shooting remains vague at this stage, with police expected to provide further details at the scene. This is the second shooting in the province in 2 days. Yesterday, 5 people were shot at the main entrance of Boyson's Magistrates Court. 2 of the victims were declared dead on the scene and 3 were taken to hospital with gunshot wounds. EWN has reliably learned that one of the deceased was identified as alleged gangster Jonathan Swartz, notoriously known as Capone. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
The Constitutional Court has ruled that civil marriages don't overlook existing customary marriages, but instead create a single continuous marriage governed by different legal systems at different times. The ruling confirms current law that an antenuptial contract concluded after a customary marriage is invalid and unenforceable, rendering the marriage in community of property. The judgment follows a divorce dispute where a couple signed an antenuptial contract years after a customary marriage. Attorney from the Women Legal Center, Kensani Motileni, explains.
It is important to see a lawyer and understand what is community, what out of community is before families sit for lobola negotiation. Because if you don't do that, you then render your marriage to be valid in terms of the default system, which will be in community of property.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the Board of Inquiry appointed to investigate Iran's involvement in the multinational naval exercise in South Africa is still gathering facts to determine how Iran was allowed to participate. The board was set up after the SA Navy allegedly ignored Ramaphosa's directive to limit Iran to observer status during the exercise. The United States has criticized Pretoria for allowing Iran to take part in the BRICS naval drill, which was held off the coast of Cape Town last week. Ramaphosa said says although he did not approve of Iran's participation, he's still collecting information before making an informed decision.
We did raise with China the issue of Iran and said that it would be best that they should withdraw. And having done so, many engagements happened. And in the course of it all, we realized that we needed more information. And that is why we've constituted a board of inquiry.
Ramaphosa says he does not want to make a premature decision regarding consequences.
So it is a matter that everyone in defense and in government is seized with at the moment. We rather tend to want to do things carefully and examine every aspect of everything before just letting out and saying whatever people want to hear on the gallery.
The National Energy Regulator has taken accountability for an error on Eskom's electricity tariff calculation that could have meant a double-digit increase for 2026-2027. The regulator has apologized to all South Africans for the error and has assured it's in the process of rectifying it through a public comment process. In January last year, NERSA approved an electricity increase of almost 6% proposed by Eskom, but later realized it had accidentally excluded billions of rands in depreciation costs and returns on its generation assets. Jabuli Lambata has the story.
After realizing the initial error in June last year, NERSA had a secret settlement with the power utility of 54 billion rand instead of conducting a public review. NERSA spokesperson Charles Hlabela says they knew they bent the rules.
The court said we didn't follow a proper public consultation process, and that decision, was remitted back to NERSA to do the redetermination after following, public consultation process, which is what we are currently doing.
In December last year, civil groups and environmental groups challenged the settlement in the Gauteng High Court, which then resulted in NERSA being instructed to redo the process and include public comments. EarthLife Programs Officer Ulrich Stenkamp.
This has been the 6th round of this process. Eskom continually applies for increases. NERSA continuously grants them these increases. So what have they been doing with the money that they've been granted? Why are they still in shortfall if they are being granted the increases that has been given to them over the past 5 iterations of the MYPD process?
The deadline for public consultations is today at 4 p.m. Jabuli Lambata, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
And Human Settlements Minister Thembi Smelane says they are moving forward with constructing houses with innovative building technologies because of their durability and ability to withstand disaster. Smelane gave a briefing today announcing the building of IBTS and a summit that will precede the start of the project. The department's plan is to eradicate informal settlements by moving dwellers into the new structures. Nkadimeng says while the building of IBTS has similar costs to the houses government has been building, they are more resilient, especially in the wake of inclement weather conditions in the country.
We've also taken a look into how our other African countries, which faces the very same challenges that we face in terms of a disaster. If you look into the previous floods of Mozambique, not the recent ones that we are talking about, where they've built in APTs, there are areas where the schools that were built in APTs are the only ones remaining, and anything has been washed away.
Gold's trading at $4,872.92 an ounce. The rand's at 16.30 to the dollar, at 21.90 to the pound, at 19.11 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.89 a barrel.
Expect about a 20-minute delay leaving the LX area heading towards Germiston. That's on the N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Linksfield Road. In Deerteport, Pretoria, slow-moving traffic on Sefako-Mahato Drive. This is approaching Moloto Road.
In your sport, Cedric Kaze tells his Kaizer Chiefs players they need to score more goals. Pep Guardiola says something needs to change soon for his fragile Manchester City. And Emma Raducanu exits the Australian Open.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Thursday with isolated showers and thunder showers expected in Gauteng tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 13 degrees and peak at highs of 25. Pretoria is at 14 and 26 and Vereeniging at 13 and 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. 5 men have been shot and killed outside a tuck shop in Jesville this afternoon.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 4. Welcome to the show. If you've just joined us, thanks for joining us earlier. If you did, we're with you all the way through until 6 o'clock. Somehow today we seem to be talking quite a lot about money. We spoke about theft in the workplace and how that should be treated. You give people second chances if the theft involves a small amount of either property or cash. Some of you absolutely not, drawing a very clear line. Others weighing up different possibilities and different ways of dealing with it. I have to say the clear line in the sand component of the responses we've got is substantially the larger. I think most people are just saying, nah, enough. We're done with this. But keep them coming. I haven't done any kind of scientific survey. It is just my impression. And then we talked about a little bit earlier with Michelle van Trotzenberg from Ituba. They're still waiting for the person who won 178 million rand last night. I'm still chuckling because she said, well, maybe the person says, well, I've got stuff I need to do. I think I would drop everything else. But I think she was really suggesting that people wanted to get clear in their own minds about what next. Really interesting interview with her. If you missed it, please go to our website, primemediaplus.com. All sorts of good stuff there from shows earlier today and from earlier in the week as well. In a moment, we're going to talk about a number of points being made by different entities as the world's richest and most powerful people are gathering at the World Economic Forum in Davos. There are a group of millionaires and billionaires who call themselves the Patriotic Millionaires Group. They've put out a statement saying that they would want to be taxed more. And then Oxfam, as it does every year, has released a report on global inequality and the world's super rich. We'll talk to Oxfam's Isabel Fry about that in a moment. Tinashe, by the way, reflects on the World Economic Forum and says, have you listened to Mark Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum? He's referring here to the Canadian Prime Minister who said in this Tinashe's quote that he selected, if we are not at the table, we are on the menu. The reality, he adds, for not Mark Carney, but Tinashe, the reality for Africans is to move away from the absurd self-electing 80 to 90-year-old power-hungry leaders. There must be a shift, he says, and a fresh wind of leadership coming. Speaking of Davos, we'll be chatting after 5 about the speech currently being delivered by US President Donald Trump. Traffic in a moment, business still to come with Stephen Curtis, and we will make sure that you're updated in the news when Maki Molapo returns at 4:30.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi. So the wealthy steal all the time to get more rich because they want power. But as soon as the poor steal, then they get reprimanded for it. So I think for me, if you steal because you need to survive, let's have a discussion, but let's not fire the individual. Okay, bye.
Dumela and Tate John and the family there. I once worked for a spa when I was young, like over the weekends while I was still studying. And at that spa, I noticed that most of the guys that were working on the shelves and were stealing. And the manager was aware of that. And then I once asked the manager that, if you know they're stealing, why aren't you doing something about it? And he told me that, look, if I'm going to fire these people and hire new ones, I'm going to put myself in trouble because the new ones, I don't know who they are, where they come from, their personalities. They might end up being the ones that are breaking in my shop and pointing me at a gun and all that stuff. So I rather keep these ones that I have. I've been with them for almost 20 years. And the only thing that I can do, minus it from their salaries, take it out from their salaries because I'm aware. But you can't just fire people because you might hire the worst people. And at the same time, the reason I asked is because if we had more money at the cashier at the end of the day, we had to account why do we have more money at the cashier. Yeah, Debo Kruger story.
Yeah, I think there's a term for it, isn't there? Shrinkage, where you expect a certain amount of of loss. Maybe I'm misusing the term shrinkage, which describes the loss but doesn't necessarily mean there's any kind of acceptance. People who run small businesses where there are, that are either very much cash businesses, or I don't know if that exists anymore, but where stuff is fairly portable. Give us your thoughts. Share with us your experience. There's pressure on you as well. 14 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Alex was a problem earlier this week. Alexandra Township is a problem again today. What's happening, Karabo?
I guess it's just peak hour traffic. It gets pretty hectic at this hour. At this stage, if you're leaving Alex, Midrand, heading towards Germiston, Bedfordview, you can expect about a 30-minute delay on the N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Linksfield Road in Diersdorp. Also, slow-moving traffic on Sifako Mahato Drive. This is approaching Moloto Road. Generally, things are looking pretty quiet on our roads at this hour. Nothing really hectic happening. No accidents have been reported on our highways. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights in the Bryanston area at Winnie Mandela Drive and Grosvenor. Also, traffic lights still not working in Kyalami at Kyalami Boulevard and the R55. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like a man wearing his finest suit on his way to an interview. He's prepped 100 times, but he still has butterflies. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a potential lucky break that could change someone's life. Every story's different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 16 minutes past 4. Let's focus our attention on this issue then. The World Economic Forum has a number of things that go on every year. There are I suppose, signal moments in that. One of them is going on at the moment as US President Donald Trump delivers his address. Whatever you think of his and his country's policies, what he says is going to have some kind of impact. But one of the things that is also a regular feature at Davos is a report that is released every single year about global inequality. It's by the organization Oxfam. They do it every year. They have reported that billionaire wealth jumped by over 16% in 2025. The report, entitled Resisting the Rule of the Rich, Protecting Freedom from Billionaire Power. And they make this point that billionaire wealth has increased by 81% since 2020. To talk about this, we're joined by Isabel Fry, Senior Policy Advisor for Inequality at Oxfam. Ms. Fry, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. What exactly is Oxfam unhappy about? Do you object to the fact of billionaires? Do you object to the scale of their wealth relative to what other people have? Or do you have other concerns that I perhaps haven't mentioned? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John, and thank you so much for inviting me to your show. As you said, on an annual basis, Oxfam releases a report looking at different aspects of inequality. And this year it has been really focusing on the damage that is done globally and at country level as well, with the huge concentration of wealth which we are seeing. And I think it's fair to say that the reason that this report started last year, as we were deciding on topics, was really seeing the huge ascent of the billionaires surrounding Trump and the power that they wielded. So the main points that we raised in the report is firstly, as you said, that it's unprecedented, the rise in billionaire wealth. And if you look at one of the statistics in the report, 3,000 people now own $18 trillion. That's phenomenal. The point that makes as well is that owning so much enables billionaires to use money to buy politics. And we've seen that in many illustrations where, compared to the democratic voice that individuals have, the concentration and the coming together of the kind of elite political and the elite business forms a pact which makes it very difficult for other people, other voices, other interests to come in. The third point that we make is that it also undermines freedoms. So if you look, and this is something which you'd be familiar with, the ways in which media houses are increasingly owned by billionaires, and that would impact on the freedom of media houses to carry certain lines, to explore certain aspects. And there's a quote in there which I just want to say is that to be economically poor leads to hunger, but to be politically poor leads to anger, and the concern we have on the impact on democracy and stability.
So you could argue, though, Ms. Fry, that these trends have been going on for decades and that none of these problems would be solved necessarily by there being fewer billionaires or by billionaires actually having less money than they currently do. And the way the argument would go, as I hear it, is that actually what you're looking to fix is the institutions that are getting corrupted in the process themselves, because they're always going to be under pressure from the rich who seek to control them. And that maybe your focus should not be on the quantum of money that these people have, but on the inability of, for example, the media or the body politic to actually resist their influence. I mean, nobody is forcing us to vote for these people.
I partially agree with what with the line that you're taking. Definitely, the point is that we're trying to make is that it is the systemic corrosion that has enabled people to accumulate. And yes, there have always been the wealthy, the biblical saying, but what we have pointed out is the rate and the extent at which the billionaire wealth has been increasing. And that, as part of the compacting over the last couple of decades, points to the fact that we've seen a significant cut in taxation, both on wealth and on incomes of the richest. And so what we're saying is that the systems that allow for such accumulation are broken systems. They prevent states from being able to meet the needs of ordinary people through public services, but they also mean that the concentration in the wealth then has an impact on the economies as well. So that concentration reduces the economy's ability to create jobs, to regulate. And because we have this massive concentration, which seems to be beyond any ability to regulate, because of the way that we've had globalization of financial rule, people. There's an ability to trade taxes over borders. So how and where people are accountable as part of a sort of democratic community is really important for us.
So, I mean, it's interesting for me because someone like, and I want, let me actually pick up before I raise something else, Ms. Fry, what you said about taxation. There is, and I mentioned this in setting up our interview with you, the Patriotic Millionaires Group. We're still trying to get a hold of them. And they're saying, look, we have a lot of money, we've made a lot of money, but we don't think we pay enough tax. Would that not be, in many ways, almost the only focus that would really get traction around this? Because I don't know how you decide that somebody has too much money or too much influence. I mean, what you'd be looking for is a remedy that is almost unemotional and generated by numbers, the way tax systems do. I mean, do you think that ultimately is the most effective and important campaign to be fought?
I really like the idea behind patriotic millionaires, because those are people who themselves hold the wealth, who put their hands up and say, we would be prepared to pay more. So that's a counter narrative to what you hear, which is that we get told that rich people will flee the country if their taxes are increased. So tax is an incredibly efficient should be an incredibly efficient regulator of wealth. What we've seen in many countries, including South Africa, is that the incomes of the rich tend to come more from wealth than they do from wages. And where you have wealth taxation taken out and on different tax levels, such as or wealth tax, capital gains tax, then the rules change significantly. So definitely the use of taxation. And at this stage, one of the reforms that is being called for is actually just for countries to share tax data, so that I can't put all my money in the Virgin Isles, Virgin Isles, and say to SARS that I have no ability, I've got nothing to be taxed on. But I think it would be useful, John, just to come in and to bring in the Stiglitz report that was released and handed over to President Ramaphosa in November last year. So that was the expert panel on inequality that was commissioned by the president in terms of the G20 function on inequality. And one of the things they recommended two things, one at a national, one at an international level. And at national level, for countries to come together and build national inequality reduction plans, where there are set targets, where there are set programs. And I think that that's a very important one that, as South Africa, we need to be looking at. And then support for an international panel on inequality, where we can share the data, but which is a much more scientific sort of clearinghouse.
So, I mean, just finally, Jeff Bezos may turn around and say, hey, look, I have a huge amount of money. It's a matter of record. Some might say it's even a matter of display. He would turn around and say, well, yeah, that's true, but Amazon employs 1.6 million people around the world. Doug McMillan, his counterpart at Walmart, will say, yeah, 2.1 million jobs for me. Apple, 164,000. Elon Musk would say, I've created 126,000 jobs just as Tesla alone. Never mind down or upstream. How do we get our heads around the argument that some people really hold very dear, that yes, people create wealth for themselves, but they create prosperity for others, and if you mess with a golden goose, we know the end of the story.
Absolutely, and entrepreneurs are critical in any society. I think we would look to how the companies structure their tax. So Ireland recently was in the limelight because many companies registered their headquarters in Ireland, where they have very, very favorable tax rates for corporates. So the question is where your legitimacy lies, where the employers are employed, are they paid decent wages? Is there sufficient tax paid on the kind of salary structures that happen there? So there are ways of breaking, and really that's the argument as well, is to break down these massive corporations into localized areas, and so that there's a greater scrutiny to ensure. All we're saying is that they need to play by the same rules as everybody else, and they need to pay a fair amount. We're not saying that we disagree with entrepreneurs or capitalists or anything like that, but the system has gotten out of control, out of kilter. It's not sustainable. We've seen what the accumulation of oligarchs' powers and authoritarian political power, which is embedded and in bed with corporate powers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. Isabel Fry, Senior Policy Advisor on the issues of inequality at Oxfam. 702 Drive, it's 27 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. It's nearly time to head back to university, so why hit the road when you can fly? Book at flysaa.com. Do it now. Karapo Charlie with the latest.
Well, not looking too bad on our roads, I must say, John. No accidents have been reported. However, it is peak hour traffic, so expect heavy delays. That's driving through Alex, about a 30-minute delay on the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Linksfield Road. In Diersdorp, Pretoria, there's also slow-moving traffic on Sefako Mahato Drive approaching Moloto Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Matric class of 2025, ready to spread your wings? South African Airways makes your uni journey easier with all-inclusive one-way fares. from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 check bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 Feb. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman
on 702. EWN Business.
Okay, the latest from the markets, please. Stephen Curtis, the oil price. Yeah, a bit scary there.
Yeah, John, good afternoon. I mean, oil is moving up a little bit, but the gold price is hitting record highs today. And to offset oil quite nicely, the rand strengthening against the dollar. The US President Donald Trump speaking at Davos now to, I think you would say, an unenthusiastic crowd, suggesting that if you just give me Greenland, a small piece of ice, I won't ask for anything else. John, your memory, 1938, Adolf Hitler said exactly the same thing in bits of Europe. I'm trying to remember how that ended, but not well, I think, is really the only way to describe it. The JSE All Share, though, up 0.46%, 121,090 points. Financials down 0.75%. Industrials down 1%. Once again, resources up 2.83% on the day, as you would expect. So Anglo is up 5.5%. Quilter, the financial firm, they're based in Britain, but they have a secondary listing here. They're up nearly 4%. They reported that their net inflows were up by 21% to 2.4 billion rand. They had a record quarter. That was partly because of issues around the budget in the UK, John. Goldfields up 3.71%, and some of the platinum miners, Implats and Valterra, up sharply on the day as well. But also interesting to see that Tiger Brands is up 3% and PHP up 3.81%. Netcare down 4%. Naspers down nearly 2.5%. And Investec down around 2% as well on the day. The car technology company Karoo reporting its adjusted earnings per share up by 11% year on year in the quarter to the end of December. The number of CarTrack subscribers up by 16%. Their subscription revenue was up by 20% in rand terms. And then I should probably mention CPI, 3.6% year on year in December, prices rising by just 0.2% between November and December last year. Inflation for the whole of 2025, John, just 3.2%, the lowest it's been in over 20 years. I dare a politician to claim you've never had it so good, and see how people respond to that. Gold going past $4,800 an ounce today. And then also, as I say, the rand strengthening. US stocks due to open lower. That was after quite a sharp sell-off last night. Donald Trump is speaking now. I don't know if he's really going to give any sort of succor to US markets, but I think a bit of concern beginning to loom there. He says, by the way, that stock market values in the US will double in a very short space of time. The gold price now, $4,857.71. Platinum, $2,491.73. Brent crude, $64.85. The rand to the dollar now, 16.2991. Call it 16.30, but still below 16.30 for the first time in a while. The rand to the euro, 19.10. To the British pound, 21.88. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. 28 to 5 news time. Maki Molapo, good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. We begin in KwaZulu-Natal, where chaotic scenes have played out at Addington Primary School in Durban as police dispersed protesting crowds outside school grounds. Members of civic organization March and March, joined by Operation Dudula and the MK Party, picketed outside the school gates today, demanding space for school children who have still not been placed. The organization has accused the school of prioritizing children of foreign nationals over South African children. Police had to use force to remove the group near the premises. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
What started as a peaceful protest of chants and songs quickly turned volatile, with participants demanding enrollment for underplaced children. Police reacted by firing stun grenades to disperse the crowd and allow learners to be picked up. March and March movement leader Jacinta Ngobese Zuma.
We don't have an option. For many, many years, I've seen a lot of parents complaining online that their children are at home
not getting an education. Some have actually even said we've resorted to online learning because of situations like this. No South African child should have to be forced into a situation where they can't access education in their own country, and we don't care who says what. That's not going to happen.
Ngobese Zuma says nothing will stop them from demanding what she's termed a basic right for children. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
Members of Parliament's ad hoc committee probing police corruption have slammed former IPED head Robert McBride, accusing him of undermining the inquiry. The members from different parties say McBride's attitude and tone has been inappropriate since his evidence started yesterday and have demanded an apology. McBride has been responding to several questions before the committee today about his relationship with controversial forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan. Babala Ndenza reports.
Robert McBride clashed with members of the committee who are being questioned about his history and his previous arrests for drunk driving when he was the chief of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police. McBride also took exception to being questioned about a charge of alleged abuse in a case involving his daughter, even threatening committee member Sibonelo Nomvalo.
Yes, it is, but it's my family.
So you are not going to answer it?
Oh, I'm just saying, watch it also.
This led to an angry response from EFF MP Leanne Matthys.
Mr. McBride, you can't come here and threaten any member of parliament. I heard you say you must watch it.
Action SA MP Darlene James called on McBride to apologize and added that he should watch how he addresses the committee and other witnesses.
He owes us an apology before we can just move on.
McBride will conclude his evidence later today. Babalo Ndanza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the South African Medical Association is prepared to meet government to iron out its legal dispute over the National Health Insurance Act. It follows an appeal by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana in Parliament last week for litigators to settle out of court. The association, which represents medical doctors, says it remains committed to working collaboratively with government to ensure a reconfigured NHI achieves its goal of universal health coverage. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
With government facing a barrage of court challenges to the National Health Insurance, it's no closer to being fully implemented after being signed into law almost 2 years ago. Last week, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana said the litigation would delay the Act's implementation and appealed to those involved to meet and settle out of court. SAMA says it met with Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi on separate matters 2 days after Godongwana made his proposal, and there's been agreement to schedule a meeting exclusively to deal with the NHI. SAMA chairperson Vuyisi Mzukwa says pursuing litigation was a last resort after efforts to engage through the legislative process did not result in a meaningful outcome.
In SAMA's next meeting with the Minister of Health, our focus will be clear: protecting patients, supporting doctors, and addressing key governance and service delivery issues.
SAMA is challenging the NHI Act on several fronts, including the impact it says it will have on private sector doctors. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Wednesday in Gauteng this afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures are peaking at highs of 25 and 26 degrees.
We're at the stage in Alex. Expect more than a 40-minute delay. This is on the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Linksfield in Deerteport. Also slow-moving traffic on Sefako Makhato Drive approaching Moloto Road, and in Hermanstad traffic sluggish on Eskiam Pahlele between Vormhagen and the R80.
The top story in Eyewitness News. Chaotic scenes have played out at Addington Primary School in Durban as police disperse protesting crowds outside school grounds.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9. You talk about Macron saying that world order is perhaps over. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says actually it was a fig leaf. These rules were only ever meant to apply to some. What case can we make in a world that is no longer about good intentions?
Positioning ourselves is a big part of the strategic orientation. If you listen to many of these powerful nations now, articulating positions in a manner that doesn't harm their own interest.
Without much levity, Minister, but is there some relief that for once the attention isn't on us?
No, you're right.
Electricity and Energy Minister speaking to us from Davos.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Water is a scarce resource. That dripping tap, that overwatered lawn, it all adds up. Johannesburg Water urges you to fix on-property leaks, reuse grey water and reduce unnecessary use. They're intensifying leak repairs and upgrading infrastructure to reduce losses. By working together and changing daily habits, water resources can be safeguarded and supply secured for future generations. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
When getting that bread, rising and grinding, 9 to 5 in, even after 5, hustling, side hustling, clocking in, knocking in, going all out, crossing T's, dotting I's, hitting KPIs, meeting ROIs, meeting deadlines, all before EOD because everything is needed ASAP. There's a lot on the go. Stick with it with the Nando's Cabo Society and single chips for 79 Rand. You've got this, and we've got you. Nando's. Oh, what a place.
Hi, I'm in grade 6 at Crawford International, and I'm already building my future. At Crawford, we don't just learn, we prepare for the world ahead. By grade 10, I can choose from a range of subjects in any combination. With experienced teachers, amazing extracurriculars, and AI-driven support, I'm set up to excel in everything, from maths to public speaking. Book your personalized tour. Crawford International, building global leaders.
Naked people have happier marriages because naked people spend less time on insurance admin. They have more time for date nights or couples therapy. Go to naked.insure now. Get a car insurance quote in 90 seconds and get naked. Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
John, it's so admirable for those patriotic millionaires or whoever they are. But yeah, if I was one of them and living in South Africa, if I was one of them and being a South African, I would not do it. Just because, those taxes would just be wasted and end up at somebody's hands, through the looting. Yeah, it's all good and well to do it where the government is working tirelessly to serve the people, but not in South Africa. Nah.
Hi, John. Such an interesting topic about stealing. So where I work, they went on a big modernization drive where they replaced, some years ago anyway, where they replaced, the desktops with protruding backs with all-in-one desktops. It was so funny because the manager's desktop was stolen overnight. It was installed today. When she came in the next day, it had been removed and the old one had been put back into place. It was wired up so she could continue working, but nobody knew where the old one went. Over and above that, they also stole, it's like a device that we use for interconnecting different systems. I don't even know what the person who stole wanted to use that for. We never found out who stole it anyway. But yeah, people steal weird things at work. Great show. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for that. We asked the question, a broad question about theft of small items at work. We're not talking large-scale fraud, and some people are just saying, look, theft is theft. You draw the line, and that's it. Other people are saying, well, it's a more complicated conversation. Is dismissal too extreme a response to that? Colin says, suggests a route to follow. Here's Colin. Verbal warning, then 2 written warnings, and then fire them. Okay, give us your thoughts on that, please. Continue to send those on 072 7021 702. 18 minutes now to 5.
EWN Sport.
Back to the sports fields, back to Tolakele Mganga. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And Cedric Kaze has told Kaizer Chiefs supporters to be realistic about their title chances. This follows a 1-0 win over Golden Arrows in the Betway Premiership last night. Aidan McCarthy scored the winner as Amakosi moved up to third spot, 2 points behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns.
Last 2-3 seasons, we were not even top 8. The first thing, to be realistic, is first to stay in the pack of the first teams. It's still early January, just to take game by game. Everywhere the league is decided April, beginning of May. We know that we're going to compete game by game. There is a lot of things that can happen from now on to May. We know what we want, and with the squad that we have, we're going to compete in every game.
Match day 7 in the UEFA Champions League continues tonight with 9 games scheduled, including Liverpool against Marseille. Arne Slot has suggested Mohamed Salah will return to the Reds starting lineup following his return from AFCON. The forward last started for Liverpool in their 4-1 home defeat by PSV in November.
I'm really happy and pleased that he's back because in his absence, I think we've done quite okay in terms of hardly conceding any chance. We start to create more and more, and if you start to create more and more, it's really helpful to have a player like Mo Salah.
The SA20 playoffs begin today, and the first qualifier sees Sunrisers Eastern Cape and the Pretoria Capitals facing off for a place in the final. Capitals captain Keshav Maharaj says one of his team's strengths is their collective confidence in their ability to win from any situation.
Yeah, I think if there's a big part of our team, the word character stands out, and that's what we showed in a game where we were 7 for 5 and all odds were against us at the time, and the two characters in Shafane and Brevi stands up. I think there's a lot of belief to know that from any situation, we'll find a way to get through it.
Australia all-rounder Glenn Maxwell and former captain Steve Vaughan are among the franchise owners in a new European T20 league, which will begin in August after 2 false starts. The league is backed by the cricket boards of Ireland, Scotland and the Netherlands, and founders include Bollywood star Abhishek Bachchan. Maxwell is a co-owner of the Belfast franchise, while former New Zealand internationals Nathan McCallum and Kyle Mills have bought an Edinburgh side. And at the Australian Open, Anastasia Potapova caused the upset of the day after claiming a straight sets win over Emma Raducanu to set up a third-round showdown with Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka has won both of the matches that she's played against Potapova, but believed that record doesn't matter at a Grand Slam.
I never focus on the past. Doesn't matter what the head-to-head looks like. It's always a new match. It's always a new battle. And also, when you go against the top-ranking player, you have nothing to lose, so you play more free. So they always bring the best battle, which I love. I look at each match as a new match, new opportunity. I'm also been working really hard. So for me, it doesn't matter what was in the past.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 4:45 now, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you now. Karabo Charlie has just slipped me a note. Hermannstadt. Delays. What's going on?
That's in the Pretoria. Well, that's leaving the Pretoria CBD. Hermannstadt traffic is a bit sluggish on Eskiam Patlele from Vomhagen to the R80 Deerteport. Also slow-moving traffic. This is on Sifako Mahata Drive approaching Moloto Road. The big one, it's in Alex. This is heading towards Germiston Bedford View. You can now expect more than an hour delay. This is on the N3 South from Marlborough Drive all the way to Van Buren. It looks like there was an accident just after Linksfield Road. So if you are on that route, please let me know. Give me a clearer picture of what's really going on. You can WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
It's Carl de Koza here in another Carl de Koza production starring Carl de Koza and Cars.Koza. In this country, we don't just drive cars, we love cars. So slide into our DMs on WhatsApp and let's find what moves you.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Now, earlier in the show, at 10 to 4, we had a conversation with Michelle van Trotzenberg from Ituba. Some of you may have heard it. I thought the interview was really interesting. 178 million rand won by somebody last night on the lotto. They haven't yet come forward and said, hey, I am the winner. Clearly, a high level of proof is required, but there's a winner out there and they don't know who it is yet. The most interesting part of the conversation for me, though, was how do you help people to navigate the complexities of a sudden and massive change in your financial state? But what that got me thinking about as well is that people do have other changes, less dramatic, less dependent on women fortune as a winning lotto ticket might be. And I'm just wondering if you've ever had any of that kind of change in your life. Maybe a significant promotion which has led to having quite a bit more money, or a steady climb but a substantial one in your fortunes as a result of the work that you do. Maybe you've won money on the lotto. Maybe will has been read and you've found yourself with more money than perhaps you expected to have at that moment in time. And whatever those circumstances were in their specifics, the question is the same for all of them. When your material situation, your financial situation, your money situation, let me call it what it is, has got substantially and noticeably better, has that changed your relationship with friends and family? And if so, how? Has it changed it for the better? Maybe eased up some tensions that were there before? Or has it made some things perhaps more complicated than you would like? So that's the question. Give me a call on that on 072 702 1702 or 011 883 0702. Tolakele, have you ever encountered that either through yourself, suddenly driving incredibly fancy cars, and everyone wondering when that happened? But more seriously, I mean, you might have come across that in either family or friendship circles.
John, when I win the lotto, there will be signs, by the way.
Good.
So unfortunately, it's
what
not
will
me.
the signs say?
You will see me coming here with a bodyguard just to read the sports.
I thought it would say back in 5 minutes, and we would never see you again.
Karaba will play the jingle and there'll be silence.
Yes,
That's all I know. I think sometimes it's not even money. It
Yes.
can be something that you don't even see as like that big of an achievement, like graduating.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, when you have an opinion about something, people are like, oh, so you think you know better than us just because you have your degree.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there going, well, I'm older and I have a little bit more experience. And I would like to think that as the family, you also are aware that I'm no longer a kid, so I can give my opinions.
Right.
But because some people will find a fault with everything. So that's why you just like have to just focus on yourself and do your own things, because people will find a reason to complain, even if you're just minding your business.
Yeah, and not only have I graduated, but in the course of graduating, I read about quite a lot of stuff. It was very interesting. I thought you might want to hear about some of it. Not all of it, because we don't have that much time. How about you, Karabo? I mean, either, as I say, encountered in your own life or family or friendships?
Well, not really, but I saw a slight change when I started working at 702 commercial radio station. So half of my family are listening to me, and they just, you can pick up that they treat me kind of differently from the rest of the people, because I, for some strange reason, I'm the special one on the air, and I know better because I work with smart people, and that's not always the case. Well, for mine is more of a positive thing, but it can get a bit annoying because their perception is not really who I am and what I am. I'm just still that Karabo the clown who's not that much of an intellect, actually.
Well, I mean, we could have a long debate about that. Whether you're a clown without much intellect, I would just want to say emphatically that's not how I see it all. But seriously, I think there's a whole other conversation, and you both have raised really interesting points, that there's kind of wealth that manifests in different ways. But I want to zone in, if we can, on the issue of money, and whether, for example, either through inheritance, maybe a lotto win, maybe some significant promotions, a business that really started to boom after many years of work. How did that affect your relationships, family and friends? And if so, positive or negative? Please give me a call on that. 072 702 1702.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's turn to this now. A very important decision made in the Constitutional Court today. I'm not entirely sure I fully understand the implications. In fact, I am entirely sure that I don't fully understand the implications. But it has to do with a matter that made its way, obviously, as ConCourt matters invariably do, although sometimes people go there direct, but mostly it wends its way through various courts, judgments are delivered. It has to do with the validity of antenuptial contracts that was signed after customary marriages were concluded. So what did the court find, and crucially, why does this matter? Minenhle Kumalo is an admitted attorney of the High Court, and she specializes in family law and related matters. Ms. Kumalo, welcome and thanks very much for your time. First of all, if you would, please, just for context, the decision itself, and then second, crucially, your view of why it matters. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yes, doing well. I hope you're well too.
I'm well. I've just had a long day, but I'm good. So, onto this ConCourt decision. Basically, this judgment basically states that if you have entered into a customary marriage and did not enter into a prenuptial agreement before you went and negotiated your lobola, then you are married in community of property. Whether 5 years down the line you then choose to go and enter into a prenuptial agreement, even if it's the next day, really, you choose to go and enter into a prenuptial agreement with your partner, it will not be valid. So whatever decisions that you make before you go pay lobola, you need to ensure that if you wish to enter into a prenuptial agreement, you do that before you even send the letter to your spouse's parents or your partner's parents in that case, because you guys aren't married yet. Once the lobola has been negotiated as per the Recognition of the Customary Marriage Act of 1998, once it's been negotiated and in the absence of a prenuptial agreement, you guys are married in community of property.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, in terms of what people should do, I mean, let me take a step back. Why did this make its way to the ConCourt in the first place? What were the decisions of earlier levels of the justice system?
So in the High Court, so basically these parties were in obviously a divorce dispute, and the plaintiff basically stated that no, we were married in community of property, which the defendant was like, no, we signed a prenuptial agreement. I think about 8 years later, after we had entered into the customary marriage. So then the question was if this prenuptial agreement was valid or not, because these people entered into a customary marriage and then a couple of years down the line entered into a prenuptial agreement before they entered into a civil marriage. So then the question was, is this prenuptial agreement valid or not? The High Court held that it was valid, and then that's how it ended up in the ConCourt,
right,
where it's stating that no, it's not valid because it was entered into after these parties had entered into a customary marriage.
A broader question. I mean, there's been various court matters around marriage and the way in which it's framed. Also, issues around the coexistence of customary marriage and marriage that involves the other arms of government, the legal authorities in that regard. What sort of progress are we making towards harmonizing systems so that they work? Because some people get married and do both ceremonies.
So it's very simple, honestly, and I think people should come to people like us first when they decide to get engaged. So basically, after 1998, with the Recognition of Customary Marriage Act, it basically stated that once lobola has been negotiated, the parties then enter into a customary marriage. And the default system for all customary marriage is in community of property.
Right.
So before you even negotiate, the first step would be to go and visit an attorney. Mm-hmm. And they will then explain all the options available to you. There's in community, there's out of community, with or without the accrual system. And then after that, so now the difference, and I think the mistake that people make is thinking that a customary marriage or a marriage is not valid unless it is a civil marriage. And then that would basically be going to the court and signing. You know how you have your white wedding? That we regard that as a civil wedding or a civil marriage. But these two, a customary and a civil marriage, they hold the same weight in the eyes of the law.
Right.
And ignorance is unfortunately not a defense. So just purely saying that I did not know, it can't be a defense. You have to make sure that once you decide that you want to marry this person, you have all the information available to you.
Thank you so much. Minenhle Khumalo, admitted attorney of the High Court of South Africa. Don't know if you followed the judgment or have been listening to some of the conversation that followed that. But if it has implications for you or you have a view on whether the court's come to the right decision or not, get in touch. 072 702 1702.
Want to know how much money OutSurance saves 35-year-old Zanai on her car insurance?
A whopping 1,180 Rand.
That's an incredible 1,180 Rand monthly saving on Zanai's 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLA. And the out bonus she'll get?
It is close to 6,500 Rand in 3 years if I'm claim-free.
Nice. How much money could OutSurance save you? SMS OUT to 45142. That's OUT to 45142. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
So let me get this straight. You found a tertiary institution.
Yep, Emirates.
That offers a high-performance education.
Yes.
And uses real-world case studies in its course material.
Uh-huh.
Lets you develop your own ideas on how to solve real-world problems.
Yeah, well, yes.
All so you can make your mark in the working world from day one.
Indeed.
But you haven't registered yet.
Yes. No.
Unbelievable. Register at emirates.ac.za.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Emirates is an educational brand of the Independent Institute of Education.
This is your captain speaking.
To all passengers who booked at Flight Center last year, congratulations. You've officially upgraded to Travel Legends. You were out there living it up, posting beach pics and sipping mocktails at sunset. To everyone else still thinking about it, this is your wake-up call. It's a new year. Time to turn someday into this year. Visit flightcenter.co.za or your nearest Flight Center store today. Flight Center, your center for travel.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. This is EWN.
President Ramaphosa highlights urgent need to improve scholar transport and Trump calls for renegotiation in Greenland takeover. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he plans on issuing an instruction for the Basic Education Department to find ways to make scholar transport safer. This is on the back of a tragic accident in Vanderbijl Park earlier this week that claimed the lives of 12 learners. It's understood that a minibus scholar transport vehicle was attempting to overtake on a narrow road when collided with a truck. Speaking on the sidelines of the Basic Education Lekgotla in Boksburg today, Ramaphosa stressed the urgent need to improve scholar transport safety. Alpha Ramushana has more.
The Gauteng government says the driver involved in the fatal scholar transport crash was operating with an expired professional driving permit. Dashcam footage shows the minibus driving on the oncoming section of a narrow road before attempting to move aside but was struck by a truck. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's deeply pained by the loss of the children's lives in what appears to be a case of negligent driving.
I'm going to be directing the Minister and Transport and all the others to look at how we can save the lives of our children. Our children are the future, and they are the most prized possession that we have as a nation.
Meanwhile, the 22-year-old driver of the scholar transport has been arrested and charged with culpable homicide as well as negligent driving. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News in Boksburg.
Meanwhile, in the capital, graphic visuals of 5 men who have been shot and killed outside a tuck shop in Jeffsville near Pretoria have surfaced online. Gauteng police notified the media of the incident shortly after 3 p.m, indicating they were rushing to the scene. Police say further details surrounding the incident will be shared in due course. Oren Singh has more.
Graphic videos and pictures showing the bodies of 3 men on the pothole-riddled Sekhamorogo Street in Jeffsville informal settlement near Pretoria are doing the rounds on social media. Beer bottles can be seen seen in close proximity of two of the men's bodies outside Yerona supermarket, an informal tuck shop in the area. Bystanders and street vendors are seen casually strolling past the victims as a small crowd gathers nearby. It remains unclear where the bodies of the other two male victims are. Police are on scene and are expected to provide further details on the incident. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
We move to the Western Cape, where Premier Alan Winde says government needs to start building long-term resilience into Knysna's water system to ensure the town has enough water for the future. With only days of water left in the system, critically low dam levels are placing severe strain on the town's water supply. Winde is meeting with his cabinet today to discuss whether to declare Knysna a provincial disaster area to allow faster access to funding and resources to help stabilize the situation and protect essential services. Winde says the crisis highlights the need for urgent interventions, including alternative water sources, infrastructure upgrades and better water management to reduce future risk. The Premier says the municipality plans to drill 7 new boreholes over the next month as a step in the right direction.
And they'll be looking at more water coming in from the various systems, some springs, some new boreholes so that we can make it sustainable. That's about declaring the disaster if it's necessary and making sure that we get through this crisis.
We move to the courts, where a data analyst has testified in court that the phones of all 3 of the accused Parapara burglars were pinged near the farm on the day of the robbery. The analyst, who cannot be named due to a standing order to not identify witnesses, has been testifying at the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo today, where the trial is taking place. Emanuela David, along with siblings Ndili Nasha and Froliana Joseph, are charged with breaking and entering into President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm and making off with $580,000 in cash. Tabiso Goba has more.
State witness testimony in the trial has so far only implicated accused number 1, Emanuela David. However, a data analyst today showed how the other 2 accused played a role in the alleged robbery. The analyst says on the day of the robbery and the days leading up to it, there were a lot of calls between David, Ndilinasho and Froliana Joseph. Froliana was a temporary cleaner at the Parapara farm. The analyst testified that on the day of the robbery, the 3 accused, along with 3 other suspects, were in the same place.
The handsets with cell phone numbers associated with all these individuals activated cell phone towers in the vicinity of Palapala farm around the same times.
The analyst will be cross-examined by the defense lawyers on Friday. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
And in Switzerland, US President Donald Trump says he's seeking immediate negotiations to acquire Greenland. Trump has been addressing world leaders in Davos today. As Trump arrived, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer told MPs in London he would not yield to pressure from the US president on Greenland. Trump previously said he would add a 10% tariff to goods from 8 European countries that oppose his plan to take over the Danish territory. Trump says the US will remember a veto of his plans to seize Greenland, telling world leaders that a strong and secure America means a strong NATO.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Gold's trading at $4,862.69 an ounce. The rand's at 16.25 to the dollar, at 21.87 to the pound, at 19.06 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.91 a barrel.
In Alex, heading towards Bedfordview, you can still expect more than an hour delay. N3 south from Marlborough Drive to Linksfield Road. Ellen's Neck, that's in the west. There's a bumper traffic on Hendrik Potgieter. This is between JG Strydom and Christian de Wet. And in mainland Pretoria, bumper traffic on the N1 south between Linwood Road and Rigel Avenue.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 13 degrees and peak at highs of 25. Pretoria is at 14 and 26. Vereeniging is at 13 and 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he plans on issuing an instruction for the Basic Education Department to find ways to make scholar transport safer.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 5 on 702 Drive. Good to have you with us on the show. Coming up in the next half an hour, we're going to be taking a closer look at what US President Donald Trump said when he addressed the World Economic Forum gathering in Davos. Very important gathering, although it certainly has its critics. And whatever one thinks of the United States, its approach to geopolitics at the moment, and the president of that country, people were listening, I think it's fair to say, to every word, trying to better understand what might be coming next. Not that that necessarily is as predictable as it might be with some other politicians. But a significant speech. We'll take a closer look at it shortly, right here on 702 Drive. Quite a few of you are responding to the decision that was taken in the Constitutional Court. This in regard to customary marriages and contracts around marriages, antenuptial contracts and post and others. Kevin sends us this. He says, I'm a notary public and an expert in antenuptial contracts. All this ConCourt decision found is that a customary marriage takes place on the payment of lobola. This is in line with previous decisions relating to inheritance of spouses where lobola has been paid. One can't enter into an antenuptial contract after the marriage has occurred. One must then do a post-nuptial contract, which is a bit more difficult to do, but by no means impossible. Kevin concludes by saying this isn't really a groundbreaking legal decision. Well, what do you think? A couple of you have been sharing your views on the same topic.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Okay, I have a question then. So, with regards to our culture, I cannot go and sign anything because the moment I go and sign at court, that means I'm already married, and our elders do not want it. So the moment I go and sign a prenup before lobola negotiations, that means I'm already married. And that is what our ancestors were disputing for a very long time, as well as our elders. So if I have to go and sign before I go pay lobola, that means by the time I pay lobola, legally I'm already married. Like, how does that work? Please enlighten me.
Yeah, thank you. That is way beyond my competence. But if there's somebody else who has an understanding of the issues, it's a shame I didn't get that voice note while we still had our guest Melentle Kumalo. But anyone else, and I'm sure there are amongst our listeners experts in this, including Kevin, who just dropped us the note that I read. If you can help and answer those questions, we'd be grateful. 10 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie, as you know, is the man who's looking out for things. Menlyn is an area where we've got some delays. Karabo.
Yeah, well, of course, at this stage in Pretoria, Menlyn area, bumper traffic. This is on the N1 southbound from Linwood Road to Rigel Avenue. Still in Tshwane, Irene. Expect some delays approaching the intersection of Nomapiers Drive and Main Road. While in Dierteport, there's slow-moving traffic on Sefako Mahato Drive. This is approaching Moloto Road. Hermanstad, traffic remains sluggish. This is on Eskiam Pahlele, leaving the Joburg CBD between Vomhagen and the R80, while in Alex can now expect about an hour delay. This is leaving Alexandra heading towards Germiston, N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Linksfield Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen can't help you find the missing lunchbox from last year, but they can ease the traffic congestion so you can stop by the shops on the way home. With the Outsurance pointsmen on the road for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely in the new year. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #pointsmenlove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman.
Powered by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
702 afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
When we look at the fact that we kind of are very much in debt, are you seeing that South Africans are still not bypassing the tricks that are used in this capitalist system to keep spending money we don't actually have?
We find the contrary, actually. I think when we speak to both our merchants or the consumers, what we see is that spending is spread across multiple payment methods. So yes, you still have your traditional card payments accounting for about 60% of total payment spent, but we're seeing people are adopting newer payment methods.
Managing Director of Merchant Services Africa Network International and PayFast, Mpho Sadiki.
702 afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Matric class of 2025, ready to spread your wings? South African Airways makes your uni journey easier with all-inclusive one-way fares from Johannesburg to Durban from 690 Rand, from Johannesburg to Gqeberha from 655 Rand, and from Johannesburg to Cape Town from 1,144 Rand. Plus, pack more of what you need with 2 checked bags instead of 1. On sale until 12 Feb. Travel by 12 Feb 2026. Book now at flysaa.com. T's and C's apply.
Tip your way to glory in the Hollywood Bets Punters Challenge, the free-to-play horse racing game with daily cash giveaways and massive jackpot prizes. Pick all the winners on the race card and you could win 100,000 Rand. Bet 50 Rand or more on your selections using the Bet Slip feature and you could walk away with 1 million Rand. Visit punterschallenge.hollywoodbets.net today and tip your way to the top. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008.
Get down to Dis-Chem this Friday 23rd to Sunday 25th January for incredible one weekend only 2+1 cheapest free deals on the widest range of sports supplements and energy drinks from top brands, excluding advertised products. Remember to swipe your Dis-Chem Better Rewards card to get an extra 10% off on Better Rewards brands. Level up your fitness gains this summer. Get 2+1 cheapest free on sports supplements this weekend only. Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's now focus our attention on Davos, where US President Donald Trump has just finished delivering a speech, a much anticipated address there. Obviously, people keen to hear what he has to say, but also very keen to look for clues as to what broader US policy might be on some key areas, both geopolitical and economic. So what was said and how should we understand it? Let's welcome once again to 702 Drive international relations expert, Professor James Kerr-Lindsay. Prof, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. Quite a bit said about Greenland. I don't know if that was what was top of people's scrutiny list and things they most wanted to hear about. But let's start there anyway. Anything new, anything suggesting what the US might do next? Good afternoon to you.
Hello, John. Thanks so much again for the invitation. Greenland was definitely the thing that everyone has been fixated on. It really is driving a wedge between the Western Alliance at the moment. We see that the United States, Trump seems absolutely obsessed with Greenland. He brought it up fairly early in his second term of his presidency. It seemed to go off the boil. Then it's come back with a vengeance in recent weeks. I think the big thing that we can take out at the moment is that Trump seems to have ruled out the use of military force at the moment. He was quite clear on this. This is not what he wants to do, but he did make a demand that negotiations must open immediately. And he hasn't taken off the table the threat of extra tariffs on countries that are supporting Greenland's claims, which in recent days has seen the European Union ratcheting up its pressure and threatening to take very strong retaliatory action. So the immediate crisis of US forces landing in Greenland, which I think a lot of people felt was unlikely, but with Trump, you never know, seems to be off the table at the moment. But certainly the Greenland crisis as a whole is still very much there.
Is the Greenland crisis, as you put it, Prof, in many ways simply I can't think of quite the word, but almost like a lever that is driving, exposing a growing gap between Europe, or certainly large sections of Europe, and the United States on other issues, some of which might be political and cultural, and others might well be economic. I mean, some people might say, well, why is this a big issue? But sometimes in relationships, you have a big fight over something that in and of itself is mainly important because it's a vehicle for other grudges and grievances.
Absolutely, and I think this also came out very strongly in his speech that he had a good old rant against NATO, was saying that NATO has done nothing for the United States. The United States has given NATO everything, that conveniently ignoring the fact, of course, that NATO has done a lot for the United States. Many NATO countries supported the United States when it went into Afghanistan. Some NATO members supported the United States when it went into Iraq. But of course, it's much more than that. So the United States says, well, we pay for everything. And it's not really as simple as that. Leadership in NATO has given the United States political leverage around the world. The United States has been very effective under successive US presidents of saying, look, we lead this major, the world's most significant military alliance, and it has given it enormous power. So, you know, Trump's very transactional. He can't see that. It comes down to plain monetary terms. We pay more, so that must mean the rest of them are spongers. It isn't like that at all, but you're absolutely right. I mean, Greenland in many ways has also been a vehicle for Trump to express this deep, deep dissatisfaction with NATO, which is unfounded in many ways that, you know, I just pointed out.
I mean, there's quite a lot that gets said by, you know, the president of the United States, first of all, but other senior figures in his cabinet, highly critical of Europe, critical of what they say is the impact on Europe of unchecked immigration and so on. Why do you think he keeps raising that?
No, and that was really interesting as well in the speech. I mean, he made what I think many people would rightly regard as an overtly racist statement. He was talking again about Somalians in the United States, calling them low IQ, but saying that it must actually have a higher IQ than we thought because they've been defrauding us. And then started going on a rant about sort of Western culture and the pinnacle of it, and really looking down on large parts of the world. And, you know, for anyone who follows US politics, I mean, this seemed like it was probably written by Stephen Miller, his far-right deputy White House chief of staff, who is, by all accounts, an extremely unpleasant person, and has these, you know, white supremacist views. And this was coming out very, very clearly in the state, you know, in what Trump was saying. So I think this is all, yes, absolutely all ties in with, you know, the underlying ideology, if you like, of it, that lies behind Trump. So Trump in many ways is this front man, but behind him, I think there is a lot of very, very disturbing thinking going on in the United States at the moment.
I'm just looking at the S&P 500, 0.75% today's gain. What one can, of course, attribute way too much to market movements. Would that suggest, though, well, there was nothing we particularly liked, there was nothing that particularly bothered us, we'll get back to the business of business?
Yes, to a point, but I think probably a lot of this, it'd be interesting to see, you know, how that uptick went after Trump ruled out military force, because it has been rather interesting. I mean, somebody pointed out that the S&P had lost 1.5% on Trump's recent ramblings about Greenland. And as somebody had noted, that really pretty much correlates with the amount of resources that Greenland is believed to have. So as they pointed out, well done. Without actually taking Greenland, you cost the United States a huge amount of money.
Right.
So yes, it might have made some money back, but it's still probably down over recent days.
In terms of other areas of the world, because it seemed to me the focus was very much on relations with Europe, a fair amount said about Russia and Ukraine. Not much, and I was not listening to the whole speech because we were on air, but trying to follow it on a couple of news sites. Anything that people in our part of the world or other areas of the developing globe that we ought to take note of? I didn't spot anything, but it doesn't mean there wasn't anything.
Well, I mean, China was, the big other issue that was on it. But you're absolutely right. But I think that this ties in with essentially Trump's worldview. Trump is absolutely disinterested in Africa. He's never visited, as far as I know. He shows no interest beyond sort of ranting and raving about Somalians. Latin America is another interesting issue. I didn't pick up that he specifically mentioned it, but of course in recent months we have seen much more reference to what people are sort of amusingly calling the Don Roe doctrine, which is the United States trying to reassert its hegemony over Latin America. But of course, what was really interesting in recent days is that Mercosur, the largest free trade area in Latin America, signed a huge free trade deal with the European Union, which many are interpreting as Latin America asserting its independence and saying, look, we're not going to be controlled by Trump. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this really didn't give much focus. I started to watch the Q&A before sort of coming on air.
Yes.
And again, he was talking about Xi in China and lavishing praise on Xi and saying that, and Putin, who he respects as well, and sort of casting the United States as a great power along with Russia and China, which I think, most observers would argue that Russia really doesn't qualify as a great power these days. But it does seem that this is Trump's worldview, that, he wants to deal with the strong man. He wants to deal with sort of Putin and Xi. But the rest of the world, I think, is going to have to work out how they're going to deal with all of this.
And I suppose just finally, put this all in context, because we had what seemed to be strong pushback on how politics are being conducted in the era of the second Trump presidency from French leader Emmanuel Macron. The same thing said, but I think in a very, very different way, by Canada's leader Mark Carney. And some people are talking about a kind of stiffening of the spine in a collective way in regard to the way they deal with the US. Is that going to be sustained? Or do you think ultimately, when it's bilateral and money and deals and trade are on the table, everybody will go their own way? Where's Europe at in this moment?
I think, there's going to have to be a rethinking about this, because I think too many people have been in too strong denial for too long about what Trump really stands for. And I think it's really becoming apparent now that he isn't playing by the rules, that in fact he actually just wants to rip up the rule book, and some sort of anarchic vision of world order, realpolitik. But this is extremely worrying. But what I think we are seeing is that more and more countries are now starting to define themselves and define their relationships in new ways. So I think we are seeing ties between the European Union and Canada sort of strengthening. Canada, of course, is also reaching out to China. I can see the United States trying to do the same. So I think, we're at a fascinating moment.
And I did say last question, but one more. I mean, the speech delivered at the World Economic Forum, Davos, arguably some people might say, well, it was just really a speech. Another speech from a significant, extremely significant head of state. Do messages, though, delivered at Davos have any particular weight? And if they do, tell us why.
Well, traditionally, I mean, it has been seen as the sort of the gathering of the great and good of international politics and economics. So for many, many years, it's had a huge amount of significance. And so everyone sort of watches Davos to see. What I think has been really interesting in all of this is that people like Trump, people like Nigel Farage from the United Kingdom, large numbers of their followers treat Davos as though the heart of the beating heart of the globalist agenda. And you often hear conspiracy theorists talking of WEF, which is the World Economic Forum, which is the formal name of Davos. And yet now they're showing up at it and they want to be seen there. And, so there's an incongruence that we see going on in this regard. But yes, ultimately, what is said at Davos certainly doesn't stay at Davos. It does make world headlines. So it is a very, very important and significant gathering.
Thanks so much, international relations expert, Professor James Kerr-Lindsay. I don't know if you listened to the speech or you perhaps have followed it online the way I did, picking up text updates. But your thoughts on that? Give us a call on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Time for business.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, gold roaring, oil a little bit troubling, and the rand looking pretty good.
Indeed, John, good afternoon. Yeah, I mean, the gold hitting more record highs again, and I'm sure parts of the speech that you've just been talking about will really drive it a little bit further as well, and in some ways it might still have some way to go. We've been making the point all week that, in fact, gold will probably break $5,000 by the end of the month, which is extraordinary if you consider how things have been moving, and in fact, the gold price, again, over $4,800 for much of the day, and that really just showing you exactly what has been happening. The JSE All Share, though, ending the day up 0.2%, financials down 0.5%, industrials down 0.81%, and resources, as you would expect, up a full percent, a little bit more than that, in fact, on the day. And partly when you look at what's been happening with some of the gold miners, Anglo, in fact, the copper miner, they're up 5.5%. Quilter's up 4.25%. They did report that they'd had a record quarter. Their net inflows were up by 21%, partly because of issues around the budget in the UK. One or two of the platinum miners doing nicely as well. So Implats is up 3.36. BHP is actually up 3%, and Glencore up 2.83, while Tiger Brands up 2.69. Netcare ending the day down 4%. Karoo down 3.9%, despite saying that the number of CarTrack subscribers increased by 16%. Their subscription revenue is up by 20% in rand terms. And then Aspen is down 2.62, and Naspers having a tough day, down 2% on the day as well. Well, as you've been hearing some of the headlines from Trump's speech and getting the sort of reaction that you would expect that I think it would get. The Dow Jones, though, shrugging that off. It's up 0.7%. The Nasdaq up 0.68%. The S&P 500 up 0.71% on the day. And that, I suspect, is going to really talk to us a little bit about some of the strength that people are seeing and the underlying US economy and what that actually means in terms of where people are going to be looking for value over the next little while. The gold price has been much stronger today, as I say, and of course, one of the main reasons for that is everything that's been happening around Trump. $4,823 now, so slightly weaker than it's been for some parts of the day. The rand to the dollar 16.28, that's been getting stronger, to the euro 19.06, to the British pound 21.87. On the Money Show tonight, more on Trump's speech, due to speak to the CEO of the IDC as well, and the CEO of Investec, both of them, John, at Davos for the World Economic Forum. We will also talk, and every time you go into a store, you're assailed by promotions. 10% off this, use your store card and get that. Well, Trade Intelligence saying those are beginning to run out of room. And if everything's on promotion, then what is the normal price for something? Do you ever have an idea? I thought that was quite interesting. And then we're also going to be speaking to the person or the business brains behind Marble and Pantry, two of the big outlets. Marble, of course, the famous restaurant. We'll be speaking to Gary Kiriso about the success there and where they came up with the idea. Pantry is one of those things that started in COVID and has stayed very successfully with us. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. 29 minutes to 6. Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Financial advisors help you have a better shot at generational wealth. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. Maki Molapo has been guiding us through the day. Here she is again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. There's been widespread reaction this afternoon over a constitutional court ruling that declares antenuptial contracts as invalid when signed after a customary marriage. This means once a customary marriage exists, couples cannot later change the marriage regime by signing an antenuptial contract unless a court formally approves it. The judgment follows a divorce dispute where a couple signed an antenuptial contract years after a customary marriage, resulting in the marriage being in community of property. Dimakatso Leshoro has more.
While making this decision, the Constitutional Court looked at two pieces of legislation, Section 21 of the Matrimonial Property Act and Section 10.2 of the Recognition of Customary Act. The High Court ruled Section 10.2 unconstitutional and invalid to the extent that it permits arbitrary deprivation of assets to the financially weaker spouse. The ConCourt does not agree that this section is unconstitutional and invalid. Attorney at the Women's Legal Center, Kensane Mutilene, says the ruling doesn't help to clarify this section of the law.
Had the Constitutional Court actually confirmed the constitutional invalidity, that would have given women and men legal certainty, So it's not that thing where you must now doubt yourself or anything.
The other part of the judgment clarified that an antenuptial contract does not overlook customary marriage. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
The South African Medical Association is prepared to meet government to iron out its legal dispute over the National Health Insurance Act. It follows an appeal by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana in Parliament last week for litigators to settle out of court. The association, which represents medical doctors, says it remains committed to working collaboratively with government to ensure a reconfigured NHI achieves its goal of universal health coverage. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
With government facing a barrage of court challenges to the National Health Insurance, it's no closer to being fully implemented after being signed into law almost 2 years ago. Last week, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana said the litigation would delay the Act's implementation and appealed to those involved to meet and settle out of court. SAMA says it met with Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi on separate matters 2 days after Godongwana made his proposal, and there's been agreement to schedule a meeting exclusively to deal with the NHI. SAMA chairperson Vuyisi Mzukwa says pursuing litigation was a last resort after efforts to engage through the legislative process did not result in a meaningful outcome.
In SAMA's next meeting with the Minister of Health, our focus will be clear: protecting patients, supporting doctors, and addressing key governance and service delivery issues.
SAMA is challenging the NHI Act on several fronts, including the impact it says it will have on private sector doctors. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accepted an invitation to join US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. A statement from his office said Netanyahu would become a member of the board, which is to be comprised of world leaders. The board was originally thought to be aimed at helping end the 2-year war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza and oversee reconstruction. But its proposed charter does not mention the Palestinian territory and appears to be designed to supplant functions of the UN. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain have also agreed to join, as have Albania, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Hungary, Kazakhstan, Morocco and Vietnam, while many others have expressed reservations. A look at your weather: a partly cloudy Thursday with isolated showers and thunder showers in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 13 and 14 degrees and peak at highs between 25 and 28 degrees.
You can still expect more than a 30-minute delay. This is in the Alex area heading towards Germiston, N3 southbound. Between Marlborough Drive and Linksfield Road. Edenvale also heading towards Bedfordview. Traffic pressure R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Gilulis interchange. And in Ellen's Neck, that's in the west side of Joburg. Traffic pressure on Hendrik Berghuter between JG Stradom and Christian de Wet.
The top story in Eyewitness News. There's been widespread reaction this afternoon over a constitutional court ruling that declares the antenuptial contracts as invalid when signed after a customary marriage.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Aubrey Masango,
Weekday evenings.
8 to midnight.
Having seen the footage of the carnage after the accident, we do need to have a conversation about how we as media people behave under such circumstances. The levels of sensitivity that we exhibit in an innocent desire to tell the story. When a mother who has just witnessed two of her babies crushed and bludgeoned to death is on the floor overwhelmed by the reality of what she's just experienced, the question, how do you feel, is deeply insensitive.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries, world-class team of 1,111 with one mission, awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis. Undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't, can you afford to enroll? It's, can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Running a business can feel like a solo mission. I mean, you've got the hustle. If only your office Wi-Fi was your employee of the month. Turn on your success with Telkom Business, the partner that always shows up. Get a reliable 25 by 25 megabytes per second connection with Stream Connect Fiber for only 489 rands per month.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that connect your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John. I just want to quickly comment on the issue of this judgment. This judgment doesn't make sense at all. You cannot enter into an antenuptial contract before the Lobola negotiations, which means the recognition of Customary Marriages Act is insignificant compared to its other counterpart, the Civil Marriages Act. So, yeah, that's my view.
Hi, John. With regards to the Constitutional Court decision, I honestly believe, due to the cases that I have seen, that in most cases, people that try to enter into an ANC after they're already customarily married are people that are trying to run away from the consequences of marriage in community of property. Because if you are able to already research about marriage regimes and all of that, you will reasonably have found out that you're already married and you're already married in community of property. And the person, the notary that is going to register your contract or sign your contract, they would, in consultation, already tell you that you are married in community of property. So I feel like people would withhold certain information about the fact that they're already married just so they can circumvent how they're already married. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for those. And there's a very interesting debate there, and I suspect it'll be picked up on the shows tomorrow on 702. We might have another bite at it ourselves, but please do keep your comments coming. 702 Drive, 19 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
So, cricket underway. Qualifier number 1 in the SA20. Tola Kele has the latest on that. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And the Sunrisers Eastern Cape won the toss and are batting first. They're currently 3 without any loss in the second over. At the creases, Quinton de Kock on 2 alongside Johnny Besto on 1. Switching over to the Bedway Premiership, where Cedric Kaze has slammed job-hunting coaches who want to replace him at Kaizer Chiefs. His reaction comes after Roger Desai and Dylan Kerr both claimed they could end Amakosi's league drought as they cast out out over Kaze and Khalil Ben Youssef's leadership. Last night, the Glamour Boys claimed a 1-0 win over Golden Arrows to move up to third spot, 2 points behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns.
I don't feel that I'm not trusted, but I feel that I'm very, very supported within the team, with the management, with players and all the colleagues that are working with. Sometimes I feel like it's the outside people that try to create things, and sometimes there is kind of lack of respect when even some people talk about a position where there is a coach already saying that I will make them champion, and when you look at the history of that coach talking about that, is he has never done that before.
Match day 7 in the UEFA Champions League continues tonight with 9 games scheduled, including Liverpool against Marseille. Last time Arne Slot made the trip to France, his Feyenoord side knocked them out of the UEFA Conference League, and he's hoping that history can repeat itself, this time with the Reds.
Yeah, indeed, I have great memories to this place. First of all, because indeed we went through to the final of the Conference League. Second of all, because it was an unbelievable atmosphere, and this is such a historic stadium. Playing here is always nice when you have a nice memory, but this memory doesn't give me anything for tomorrow. The fans will be just as passionate, maybe even more as last time. We also have to face a very good Marseille team. We have a very good squad and a very good manager.
Springbok women will host the USA in a historic 2-test series in July, where they'll be the curtain raiser as the Springboks kick off their Nations Championship campaign. The 2 tests will be played at Ellis Park and Loftus Versfeld and form part of double headers. That's when the Boks host England and Scotland respectively. The Bok women in the USA have never met in South Africa before, while their last encounter was in March 2024 when the Americans won 38-17. Switching to the Stormers, who've announced that Wandisile Simelane has agreed a contract extension until at least 2028. For teammate Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu, he's among 10 nominees for the 2026 Investec Player of the Year award. This follows the Flyhouse performances during the Champions Cup pool stage. Public voting is now open and the winner will be announced on the 23rd of May. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Back onto the roads we go. If you're heading east, moving through Edenvale, you better listen up. Karabo Chalo has the details.
Yeah, that's if you're traveling towards Bedford-View, there's traffic pressure. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. In Alex, expect more than an hour delay still. This is on the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Linksfield Road in Bryanston. Traffic a bit sluggish. This is on the N1 southbound. From the Butlu interchange to Winnie Mandela Drive, Allen Snake, there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Hendrik Potgieter between JG Straydom and Christian de Wet, mainland Pretoria. There's heavy delays on the N1 southbound from Linwood Road to Rigel Avenue. Still in Tshwane, Irene, expect some delays approaching the intersection of Nomay Pierce Drive and Main Road at Deerdeport. There's slow-moving traffic on Sefako Mahato Drive. This is heading towards Moloto Road. Hermanstad leaving the Pretoria CBD. Traffic remains sluggish on Eskiam Pahlele between Vomhagen and the R80. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, it's 14 minutes to 6. Money Show coming up between 6 and 8. And then, of course, there's Aubrey between 8 and 12. You don't want to miss that. We're going to play out the show with some music, as we always do in the last 10, 15 minutes. We were just sort of chatting about different eras in music. I remember there was a time when people said that the 80s was like a terrible year for music, or was it the 70s? And what that made me realize, when I realized that I couldn't remember which decade it actually was, is there's always a decade that gets absolutely dissed by some people who say, oh, the music for those 10 years was absolutely terrible. And then equally people say, well, that was the decade where nobody amongst the top musicians could ever put a note wrong. So we're going to look at the 80s today. Jonathan Fairbairn, I'm not sure why we picked the 80s, but I mean, because we didn't pick the 90s, I guess.
Well,
do that
the year
another
I
day.
I was born in the 80s.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
A great time.
Yeah, I mean, there were some bangers in the 80s, especially when I was in my cot, you know, and my mum was playing.
Yes.
No, I'm joking. But, you know, listening back and just doing a Google search to the music from the 80s, there were some really, really good iconic songs. For example, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. The Police, Every Breath You Take. Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. I mean, there's you go into Spotify and any of the streaming musics, and you'll see the playlists that people make from the 80s, and you just look and you think, that's a hit, that's a hit, that's a hit, that's a hit. So when I asked you that earlier, you said you were going to pick your best song from the 80s, and what are we going to have on the wireless today?
Yeah, just a disclaimer. I wouldn't say this is my best song from the 80s, but I wanted to make sure we got into the mix some good and very, very popular South African songs from the 80s. I wouldn't hang my hat necessarily on this peg as the best of a 10-year span of music, but I really enjoyed this, and many of you will. Let's start this off with PJ Powers and Steve Kakana. Not speaking for myself, but for them, I Feel So Strong.
Yesterday, you took me by the hand. Ooh, and all at once, I began to understand. But I never thought I'd find a friend quite like you. Ooh, I never thought you'd care so much.
But I do, and now I feel so strong. Your help has made me feel again that I belong. I couldn't really tell you, so I wrote this song. So listen carefully. When you're here with me, I feel so
Yeah, great pop song from the 80s. Steve Kakana, PJ Powers, I Feel So Strong. So your best songs from the 80s, you may want to pick South African music. You'll just pick one. Pick one. Your best of the 1980s, please. Send it to us as a WhatsApp voice note or a text. We'll rifle through the library and see if we can play it for you. 702 Drive, it's 10 to 6.
never thought you'd care so much.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
What would be a practical way of implementing it? And now, as a driver in South Africa, you are not allowed to take a single drop of alcohol if you're intending to drive. How do we implement it in a way that's going to be effective?
Zero alcohol can definitely work, but as saying, it has to be implemented well. And that would mean consistent roadside testing, for instance. It would mean visible enforcement, having those checkpoints. And it also would mean that we need to have sustained public messaging. And there has to be some kind of consequence.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
The festive rush doesn't wait. Orders, deliveries, messages, calls. This summer, you'll need connectivity that doesn't tap out when the pressure is on. With Telkom Business, you get reliable, high-speed connectivity for just $2.99 per month. That's our unlimited LTE, all hours basic plan, 10 megabytes per second. No caps, no excuses.
This summer, your business deserves the best. Visit telkom.co.za/business for deals that grow your business. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
This message is brought to you by Eskom. Redefining for a better future.
Are you running a business? Every rand counts. Save electricity and cut costs by switching off lights, computers, and air cons after hours. Use energy-efficient lighting and equipment and make saving electricity part of your daily routine. Smart energy habits mean lower bills and greener business future. Let's power success efficiently.
Let's use electricity wisely. ESCOM.
Ready for a learning experience of a lifetime? Join Richfield's nationwide open day every day this week, including Saturday. Tour our state-of-the-art campuses and find your perfect fit with our range of qualifications. From higher certificates and diplomas to degrees, postgraduate programs and our MBA. Visit richfield.ac.za for more. Richfield, your future enriched.
7:02 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and team. My 80s hit would be I Want to Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner.
Thing that I see, I wanna wake up with you. I wanna lay by your side, baby. I wanna feel every beat of your heart, and throughout the night, I wanna hold you tight. I wanna wake up. All the love inside me has been sleeping.
1986, veteran reggae artist Boris Gardner covering a song there in, that was the choice there. Just seeing who first did it. American country music artist and actor Mac Davis. Then it was done by another country singer, Con Hunley. And then Boris gave it the reggae treatment. 072 702 1702. If you had to pick a song from the 80s, what would it be?
My name is Kenzani Koza, and I would really like for you to play me Easy Lover by Philip Bailey and Phil Collins. It's such a lovely tune. I really like listening to it, and I think it's one of the best songs to come out of the 80s.
Came out in the mid-1980s. Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind and Fire. Phil Collins, originally from Genesis. MTV Music Award for Best Overall Performance in a Video. 2 Grammy nominations in the year that followed. Perry says, my 80s song is Solid by Ashford and Simpson.
And for love's sake, each mistake, oh, you forgave. And soon both of us learn to trust, not run away.
It was no time to play.
We build it up and build it up and build it up, and now it's solid. Solid as a rock. That's what this love is. That's what we've got. Oh, solid. Solid as
sky went gray, but somehow we managed. We had to stick together. You didn't bat an eye when I made you cry. We knew down the line we would make it.
Nicholas Ashford, Valerie Simpson came out in September 1984 off their 11th studio album. Helen just simply says 80s music is the best, reinforces the point with a few exclamation marks. DR says, my song is CJB, the boss is back. Lots of you sending in all your suggestions. We can't play all of them, but I think you'll agree if we're talking about the 80s, we really should be playing out with this.
Frank Menyazo, I would like the song of Steve Kekana and Coyote. Take your love and keep it. Thank you.
Afternoon, John. What a nice topic. You can't talk about the 80s without playing a Michael Jackson song. And I suppose the one for me then from the 80s would be Billie Jean. Dinesh, cheers.
She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who would dance on the floor and around. She said, I am the one who would dance on the floor and around. She told me her name was Billie Jean as she caused a scene. Then heavy hair turned with the eyes to dream of being the one.
Suggestions keep coming in. Togozani, how about us buy champagne? Brati, who's going to drive you home by the cars? Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart gets a few votes as well. That's about it, though, from all of us here at 702 Drive. We've loved having you with us. Thanks for keeping us company on 702 Drive. I'm John Perlman. Good night.
She just a girl that I am the one, but the kid is not my son. She says I am the one, but the kid is not my son. No. For 40 days and for 40 nights I was.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, a Pan-African bank that's invested in your story because your story matters.